Nobody warns you that the throne room of God doesn't feel like peaceful. It feels like your senses just got grabbed by the collar and shaken. And right when you're trying to process the screaming light and the living creatures with way too many wings, someone leans in like, "Don't be afraid." Sir, that is not helping. Hey guys, tonight we begin with standing in the throne room of God, before the first morning, watching heaven's beauty turn tense and seeing the most magnificent being ever created decide he wants the throne. We're not doing fluffy clouds and harps. You're going to feel the weight of eternity in your teeth and hear "Don't be afraid." Said so often, it starts to sound like a customer service script. So before you get comfortable, take a moment, like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Congratulations, you've just woken up in a place that technically isn't even a place. The good news, you're alive, and nothing here can actually hurt you. The bad news, your body is still reacting like a small woodland animal that wandered onto a highway. You try to take a step and immediately realize there is no flaw the way you want there to be a flaw. There's something under you, sure, but it's like standing on certainty itself, polished smooth, colder than ice, and clearer than glass. It looks like a sea, except it doesn't move. It's just there, perfect, reflecting everything and nothing. And your brain, sweet little hard-working brain, is already overheating. Then the light hits you. Not bright, not sunny. This is light with opinions. It doesn't land on things, it fills them. It finds every hidden corner of you like it's been waiting, patient, forever, for you to show up. You want to squint, but the light isn't coming from one direction. It's everywhere, and it's alive with color you don't have names for. Your eyes try to label it anyway. Gold, fire, sapphire, lightning. None of those words survive the experience. And there's sound, not background music, not distant singing. Sound like reality humming at full volume, like the universe is a massive instrument and somebody just struck a chord that rattles your bones. You feel it in your ribs first, then in your teeth, and you have the sudden urge to check if you still have teeth. You look up, because of course you look up, and that's when you see it, a throne. Not carved wood, not fancy marble, not a chair with some tasteful upholstery. This throne looks like it was made out of authority itself, like it existed before anyone invented the concept of sitting down. And on it, presence. You try to focus on details, because that's what humans do when they're overwhelmed. Okay, what am I seeing? Describe it. Get a handle on it. But it's like trying to describe the ocean using a spoon. There are flashes like gemstones, colors like jasper and carnelian, except those words feel flimsy here. Around the throne is something like a rainbow, but it's not cute. It's not a children's book. It's a ring of radiance that looks calm, only because it could vaporize your confidence without moving. You realize you've stopped breathing. You don't even know when that happened. Your lungs just quietly gave up, like, yeah, no, not in this environment. And then, somehow, you're fine anyway, because whatever keeps you here isn't oxygen. The air smells like nothing and everything, clean like rain, sharp like lightning, hot like metal after a forge. There's a faint burn to it, like your instincts are being sanitized. It's the scent of power, and it's honestly rude. Then you notice the beings. At first you think they're part of the light, like patterns moving. Then they move in a way that patterns don't. and you get that cold drop in your stomach, like you've just realized the statue in the corner is a person. They are massive but not clumsy. They don't lumber. They hover with purpose. They're covered in wings, 2, 4, 6. Like someone took the concept of flight and said, what if we made it excessive? And the faces. You see a face, and then another angle shows you another face and another. Lion, ox, eagle, strength, endurance, speed. Like creation's greatest hits, all got fused into one living alarm system. They are beautiful in the way a hurricane is beautiful, which is to say, you should not approach. They're also covered in eyes, not 1 or 2, not a lot, like a spider. Eyes everywhere, watching everything, seeing through everything. You feel seen in places you didn't know you had. One of them turns, just slightly, and the motion makes the sound change, like the room has a new center of gravity, like your thoughts have to reorganize themselves to match the rotation. Next, they speak. Not a casual hello, not welcome. It's worship, and it hits like thunder wrapped in harmony. Holy, 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 over and over, like they're not repeating themselves. They're discovering it again each time. You want to cover your ears, but your arms feel like they belong to somebody else. Besides, it's not loud in a painful way. It's loud in a this is what the universe is for way. Then, because this place has a sense of humor, you hear it. Don't be afraid. It's said gently, comfortingly, like someone handing you a warm blanket. Except the person handing it to you is a living firestorm with 6 wings and a face that could stop your heart with a glance. You nod like you understand. You do not understand. They say it again, like they've had to say it lot, like newcomers always arrive looking like you, staring, frozen, spiritually buffering. Don't be afraid. As if fear is just a setting you can toggle off. Around the throne are other presences, ranks on ranks, like an endless crowd that never jostles. There's no pushing, no awkward elbowing, no one trying to get a better view. Everyone already knows their place, and somehow that's its own kind of pressure. And then you notice something else. Time isn't behaving. There's no sun, no shadow, no sense of later, no hunger creeping in, no blinking clock. It's all now, stretched out so wide it becomes its own landscape. You try to remember what you were worried about last week, and it feels hilarious. Like remembering you once panicked about a missing sock. Your old fears don't fit in here. They're too small. They fall off you like cheap jewelry. Then the atmosphere changes. Not because God moves. Nothing about the throne room suggests God needs to shift for anything, but because attention shifts. It's like 1,000 minds subtly angled toward one point, and you feel it in your spine. Someone is approaching, and you expect terror again, because that's been the theme. But what arrives isn't terror first, it's beauty. A being steps into view, and for a moment the overwhelming strangeness becomes organized, like all the light learns how to dance, like the brilliance that was already here just found its favorite song. You can't decide what to look at first. There's the sense of precious stone, like jewels woven into living form. There's sound too, music that doesn't come from an instrument he's holding. It comes from him, like he was built to carry harmony the way lungs carry breath. If perfection could walk, it would walk like this. And you, standing there on that glassy expanse with your human awe and your tiny human vocabulary, feel your thoughts go very quiet, because you know, deep down, you're looking at the most dazzling created thing you will ever see. He turns slightly, and the light catches him, and you almost laugh. Not because it's funny, but because it's absurd. Like, of course, heaven has a being like this. Of course it does. Then you catch it, the smallest change, a hesitation, a look that lingers a fraction too long toward the throne, the tiniest tightening of something that shouldn't tighten in a perfect being. And you hear it again, nearby, calm as ever. Don't be afraid. This time it lands different, because you're starting to understand. The terrifying part isn't the wings or the eyes or the thunder choir. The terrifying part is watching beauty stand this close to the source of all beauty and decide it wants the seat. You want to close your eyes. Your instincts are screaming at you to shut them tight, but you can't, because what you're seeing doesn't follow the rules your brain knows. That hesitation you noticed in him, the fraction too long, the look that didn't bounce away from the throne fast enough, hangs in the air like smoke you can taste. Only there isn't smoke, not the kind you know. It's more like the atmosphere got thicker on purpose, like reality just pulled a heavy curtain across your face and said, focus. The sea under your feet stays perfectly still, and that somehow makes it worse. Water that doesn't move is illegal to your nervous system. Your balance keeps waiting for a wave that never arrives. Your stomach does a slow, confused roll, like it's trying to file a complaint. You glance down, and the glassy expanse reflects you back, except it doesn't. Not really. It shows the idea of you. A blurry, fragile outline standing in a place where outlines feel like a joke. You try to swallow. Your mouth tastes like clean metal, like you licked a lightning rod. Your tongue feels too big for your teeth. Your teeth feel too small for your skull. All around you, the sound keeps going. That constant hum of existence, that chord you felt in your ribs earlier, is still vibrating through everything. It isn't background noise, it's structural. You look up again, because you can't not, and the throne is still there, unmoved, unbothered, the kind of stable that makes mountains look emotionally unstable. The light around it isn't just bright, it's layered. It has depth, like you could fall into it and never reach the bottom. Colors keep sliding past each other in ways your eyes don't have a drop-down menu for. You try to name them anyway, because you're human. And humans name things when they're scared. Gold, sapphire, fire, emerald. Your brain offers blue, like that's helpful. Around the throne, the ring of radiance holds steady. That rainbow-like arc isn't cute, not even a little. It looks calm the way a blade looks calm while it waits on a table. And you notice the air has a texture. It feels charged, like right before a storm breaks, except the storm is worship and the rain is pure, unfiltered holiness. It prickles your skin. It prickles thoughts you didn't know you had. The winged beings keep circling, not frantic, not chaotic, purposeful, like their movement is part of how reality stays stitched together. 6 wings on some of them, 2 to fly, 2 to cover their faces, 2 to cover everything else. Because even here, apparently, there's etiquette. You can't decide if that's comforting or deeply unsettling. One of them turns slightly, and the sound of wings changes shape. It's like the room has acoustics that shift depending on who's moving. Wings shouldn't have bass. These wings have bass. The vibration moves through your chest like somebody thumped a massive drum right against your sternum. You feel your heartbeat stutter, then try to pretend it didn't. And the voices, holy, holy, holy. It rolls over you again. And it isn't repetitive the way a chant gets repetitive. It's repetitive the way waves repeat. The same word, but it keeps landing in a different place. Every time they say it, you feel smaller, not worthless, just correctly sized. You try to glance sideways, because you know there are more presences here than the ones your eyes can track. The edges of your vision are full of movement, ranks upon ranks, an endless crowd that somehow never coughs, never shuffles, never whispers to a neighbor. No one clears their throat. No one checks a pocket for a missing key. Nobody's bored. Nobody's hungry. Nobody's thinking about tomorrow's schedule, because tomorrow doesn't have the nerve to exist here. And there, close enough for you to notice, far enough to make you keep your hands to yourself, are thrones around the throne. Smaller, but still real, still weighty, like seats meant for beings who carry authority the way you carry bone. On them sit elders, ancient, robed, crowned. They don't look tired. They look like time has been serving them, not the other way around. Their garments are white in a way that makes your idea of white look like a dirty dish rag. Their crowns catch the light and throw it back like sparks. Every so often, one of them rises. Not hurried, not dramatic, just inevitably. And when they rise, they take their crown off like it's the most natural motion in existence, and they lay it down. They cast it, place it, offer it, right there before the throne. No hesitation. No, but I earned this. No little clingy human part whispering, what if you need it later? They don't need it later. The crown is a symbol. The throne is the source. Watching them do that hits you in a weird spot, like seeing someone casually put down something you've been gripping your whole life. You want to ask questions, 1,000 questions. Your mouth refuses to cooperate, like it's decided silence is the safest career move. Something like thunder cracks, and you flinch on instinct. But it isn't thunder coming from above a cloud. It's thunder coming out of the throne area, like power is speaking in a language made of sound. Light flashes with it. Not random lightning, direct, intentional bursts, like punctuation. You realize your shoulders are up around your ears. You try to relax them. Your body laughs at you. And then you notice the lamps. Not candles, not torches. 7 flames burning, steady and alive, like each fire is its own being that just happens to be shaped like a flame right now. The flames don't flicker because of air currents. They flicker like they're thinking. They cast light that doesn't create shadows the way light should. The illumination doesn't hide anything behind anything else. There are no corners to disappear into. Not physically, not emotionally. You can feel parts of yourself you forgot were there. Old grudges, old fears. That weird little habit of pretending you're fine when you're not. It all sits in your chest like a pile of junk you didn't know you were carrying into the throne room. And the wild part is, you don't feel mocked, you feel known. That's worse. The living creatures, those multi-faced, winged, eye-covered realities, keep moving around the throne. Lion, ox, eagle, man, strength, endurance, swiftness, mind. All mashed together into something that feels like creation's most intense security team. Except they aren't guarding God, like God needs guarding. They're declaring who God is, like the declaration itself is part of how heaven stays heaven. Their eyes catch you sometimes. Not accusing, not curious, just aware. You've never been looked at by something that doesn't have blind spots. It's unsettling in the way a perfectly clean mirror is unsettling when you know you didn't wash your face. You glance down at the sea again because you need a break from all the eyes. The surface is like crystal, like glass, like frozen clarity. It reflects the throne's radiance and turns it into an endless floor of shimmering light. You can see ripples of brightness crossing it, like heat shimmer without the heat. But the air does feel warm in places, hot actually, near the throne, like standing too close to an oven you didn't know was on. Your skin tightens, your hair prickles, Your whole body wants to take one step backward. You don't, because behind you is also this. There's no way. A sound rises again. Water, but not water. Like the roar of a waterfall multiplied until it becomes a wall. Many waters. It fills your ears and somehow doesn't deafen you. Your hearing adjusts in real time, like your body is getting emergency updates. You can feel the sound in your jaw. You wonder briefly if your fillings would survive in a place like this. Then you remember, you don't even know if you have fillings here. Time does its weird thing again. A moment stretches like warm pitch, slow and sticky, and then snaps back into place. You don't know how long you've been standing here. It could be seconds. It could be years. The worship keeps rolling, steady as breath. Holy, holy, holy. And as that word repeats, the whole place responds. Not emotionally, physically. The foundations of this realm tremble, like the building itself is reacting. The air pulses, the light shivers. It feels like being inside a massive drum, while someone gently taps it from the outside. Except gently is doing a lot of work. You brace yourself without knowing what you're bracing for, and that's when you see it at the edge of the throne area. Movement, not the circling, not the hovering. Something arriving from above, from beside, from a direction you can't map. A shape like wheels. At first, your brain tries to be normal about it. You think chariot. You think spokes. You think wood. Your brain is adorable. This is not that. A wheel appears, except it's not rolling on the sea because the sea isn't a surface so much as a concept. The wheel stands there, upright, and it looks like it's made of shining metal and stormlight. Inside it is another wheel, intersecting, crossing at angles that should make it impossible. A wheel within a wheel, like someone tried to design transportation for a dimension with no directions and no mercy. You stare at it and immediately regret it, because the wheels are covered in eyes, not etched, not painted, actual eyes, all over the rim, in the intersections, in the parts your brain can't quite focus on. They blink, not all together, not randomly. They blink like a living field of awareness, watching everything at once, including you, including the space behind you, including the thoughts you try to hide in your own skull. You feel exposed in a way that makes nakedness seem quaint. The wheel moves. It doesn't turn like a normal wheel. It shifts sideways without rotating, like it refuses to participate in physics. It glides, perfectly controlled, like it's on rails you can't see. You get the sensation of something very organized, very intelligent, and very uninterested in making you comfortable. The sound they make is like storm wind through a canyon mixed with the clatter of 1,000 bells. Not cute bells, war bells. Your hands twitch at your sides, wanting to cover your ears, wanting to cover your face, wanting to find a hoodie and pull it over your head and pretend you're not here. You have no hoodie. You have eternity and your own helpless awe. The wheels pause near the throne, and you notice they aren't alone. Above them, over them, somehow connected, there's a platform, like a crystal expanse stretched taut. It looks like a sky made into a floor. It gleams with an icy brilliance that makes you feel cold just looking at it, even though the air near the throne is hot. Above that platform is more radiance, more presence, more weight. Everything layers upward like a cosmic sandwich of impossible materials. Glassy sea, living wheels, crystalline firmament, throne, glory. Your brain tries to stack it into something understandable. Your brain fails gently and sits down in the corner. The 6 winged ones keep chanting, and the elders keep offering their crowns, and the lightning keeps flashing, and you're just standing there with your human posture, wondering if you're doing it wrong. You probably are, but the throne doesn't seem concerned with your performance. That's the weird comfort hidden inside the terror. This isn't a room where you impress anyone. This is a room where you finally stop pretending you're impressive. Another surge of sound rolls through, and you realize it isn't only voices. There are instruments. Not instruments held in hands, not harps balanced on knees. The music in this place feels built into beings, woven through their existence. It's like the air itself is strung, like a giant harp you can't see, and worship plucks it constantly. The harmony is so clean it almost hurts. It has no sour notes, no missed timing, no awkward sorry, I came in early moment. Your chest tightens with a strange grief you can't name, because you've lived your whole life surrounded by slightly off things, slightly off love, slightly off motives, slightly off promises. Here, everything locks into place. It makes you realize how much you've been compensating. Your eyes drift again, because you can't stop scanning. You're like a raccoon in a kitchen, and you see an altar shape somewhere in the haze of brilliance. It's not a cute little table. It's heavy, solid, real in a way that makes your bones feel imaginary. Near it, something like smoke rises, but it's not the choking, greasy smoke of a cooking fire. It's clean and thick, like incense that doesn't just smell good. It smells like your nervous system unclenching. It carries a sharp sweetness, like crushed resin and spice. It clings to the back of your throat. It makes you want to cough, but you don't. The moment feels too big for coughing. The smoke gathers, then thins, then gathers again, like it's breathing. And the room responds. Every time the worship crests, the air shudders. The pillars, if you can call them pillars, tremble like they're alive. You get the impression this place has structure, but not the kind that can be measured with tools. It's built out of meaning. That thought should make you feel comforted. Instead, it makes you feel like you're standing inside a sentence that could rewrite you. You glance back toward the being you noticed earlier, the dazzling one, the organized beauty with music in him. He's still there. He stands like he belongs in this environment, like his very presence makes the chaos of your perceptions line up into something coherent. His form catches the light, and it throws it back in gemstones. Not one jewel, not a tasteful accent. Gemstones everywhere, like someone said. What if perfection wore the entire jewelry store, but made it look normal? The colors in him are richer than the surrounding radiance somehow. Sardius, topaz, diamond brightness, emerald fire, onyx depth. It's ridiculous. It's also, against your will, stunning. You hear music ripple from his direction, not because he's making a big show, but because it's just part of him. Like if he moves, harmony moves. You've met people who think they're the main character. This is what the main character would look like if main characters were real. He doesn't look strained. He doesn't look uncertain. He looks complete. Like a finished masterpiece that somehow breathes. And that's why that tiny hesitation was so disturbing. It's like seeing a perfect statue with a hairline crack. You keep your eyes on him for a second too long, and immediately you feel it. The awareness from all those eyes around the throne. Not angry, just attentive. It's like the whole room can tell where your focus goes. You snap your gaze back toward the throne like you got caught staring at someone in an elevator. The throne's radiance doesn't change. The presence doesn't shift. God isn't swiveling like, "Excuse me." The throne simply is. And that's when it hits you again. This isn't a place where God is the biggest thing in the room. God is the reason room is a word. The living creatures cry out again, and the sound hits a new register, higher, deeper, both at once. You feel your eyes sting, not from smoke, not from wind, from the sheer intensity of meaning pressing in on you. It's like your soul has been sitting in dim light your whole life, and someone just turned on a stadium floodlight. You blink hard, and stars don't appear in your vision the way they do on Earth. Instead, the light clarifies. It makes everything sharper. You can see the edges of the elders' garments, the folds like woven snow. You can see the crown's metal catching and releasing flashes. You can see the sea's surface holding reflections like it's holding secrets. You can see the wheels again, still watching, still not rotating, still making your brain itch. You realize you've been clenching your jaw so hard it hurts. You try to loosen it. The sound shifts once more, like a new voice enters, or like the existing voices intensify, swelling towards some moment you can't anticipate. The elders rise again, more of them, and the movement is smooth and synchronized without being robotic. They aren't following a conductor. They're responding to the throne like iron responds to a magnet. They fall down, not gracefully, not politely, fully, face down, like gravity suddenly got personal. Their crowns come off again, and the clink as they touch the ground is one of the only small sounds in the whole place. That tiny clink lands in you like a hammer, because it's so normal. Crowns hitting a floor, metal on surface, a sound you could hear in a palace on earth, except here, it's happening in front of a throne made of authority, in a room where light has layers and the sea is glass. It makes you realize heaven isn't less real than earth. It's more. The living creatures' voices roll again. Holy, holy, holy. And you feel the words like heat against your skin, not burning you, purifying you. You don't know how you know that. You just do. The air near the throne flares with brightness, and you see flashes, like lightning, like fire, like pure radiance folding in on itself. Your eyes water again, and you don't wipe them because you're not sure your hands are allowed to move. You stand there, stuck between awe and absolute sensory overload. And the worst part is you can't even distract yourself. No phone, no clock, no snack, not even a wall to lean on. You are simply present. And your presence feels incredibly loud. Another wave of sound crashes through, and it's like hearing the ocean. Only the ocean is alive and speaking. The roar fills the entire space, and you suddenly understand why beings cover their faces with wings. Not because they're shy, because unfiltered glory is like staring at the sun from inside the sun. One of the 6 winged ones dips lower, sweeping across your field of vision like a bright storm. The movement is so fast and so smooth it makes you dizzy. You smell something sharp and clean as it passes, like hot stone after rain, like ozone, like air that's been split open and stitched back together. It leaves a wake of warmth. Your skin prickles, and your heart tries to climb out of your chest and run away. You hear, close by, that gentle voice again. Don't be afraid. It's absurd. It's like someone whispering relax while you're standing on the edge of a hurricane. You don't feel less afraid exactly, but you feel held. Not physically, not like arms around you, more like the environment itself is refusing to let you be destroyed by what you're witnessing. Your mind floats for a moment, the way it does when something is too much. You think about all the silly pictures people draw of heaven. Puffy clouds, chubby babies with wings, golden gates like a nice neighborhood entrance sign. This is not that. This is a place where beings have 6 wings, because 2 would be insufficient. This is a place where wheels are alive and covered in eyes, because why would transportation be normal? This is a place where the sea is glass and the air tastes like lightning. And worship isn't a song you sing, it's the atmosphere. The sound swells again, and you feel the whole place answer. The throne's radiance flares. The rainbow ring glows like a steady promise made of light. The elders remain bowed, their crowns scattered like offerings. The living creatures keep circling, eyes open, wings beating, voices rolling. And you stand there, small and stunned and weirdly safe, in the middle of a reality that could erase you without effort, but doesn't. Your thoughts slow, not because you're bored, but because you've reached the edge of what you can process. You stop trying to label colors. You stop trying to map directions. You stop trying to understand how the wheels move without turning. You just let the presence be what it is. The throne remains. The light remains. The sound remains. And somewhere nearby, that dazzling being, the one with music woven into him, stands close enough to the source of all beauty that you can feel the tension in the air when he looks at it. Not hatred. Not yet. Just longing, sharp as a blade. You feel it like a cold thread pulled through the heat of worship, almost invisible, but real. The room doesn't collapse. The song doesn't stop. Heaven keeps being heaven, but you can sense it now, the way you can sense a storm hours before it hits, when the air gets too still and the birds get quiet. Something has shifted, tiny but undeniable. And while the living creatures cry out, "Holy," like it's the first time they've ever said it, and the elders lay down their crowns like it's the only sane thing to do, you stand on the glassy sea and watch perfection stand within arm's reach of the throne, close enough to see every detail, close enough to want it, close enough to make eternity feel for the first time like it has a crack running through it, thin as a hair, but spreading, slow and patient, under all that unshakable light. And then, in the midst of all this impossible glory, your attention is drawn to something, someone, who somehow outshines everything else. It's not that the throne dims. The throne doesn't dim. The throne is the definition of on. But this being catches the light like it was made to catch it. You feel it before you fully see it, like your senses all lean the same direction at once. Every eye around you can look anywhere, and yet your own human focus locks on this one presence the way a compass needle snaps north. He stands close enough to the throne that your throat tightens just thinking about it, because you've been near bonfires. You've been near lightning strikes. You've stood too close to an oven and regretted your life choices. This is closer than that. The heat of holiness rolls off the throne in waves you can't call heat. It's pressure. It's purity. It's the sensation of being held under a waterfall made of meaning. And he's standing in it like this is his natural habitat, like this is where he charges. The first thing that registers is the surface of him, not skin, not feathers, not scales. It's adorning, covering. A living arrangement of beauty that makes your brain go quiet for a second because it's busy trying not to short circuit. Gemstones. Not one tasteful jewel at the collar, not a subtle ring, not a minimalist anything. He's wearing the entire concept of precious stones like it's casual. Sardius flashing deep red, like the heart of a coal. Topaz catching light in honeyed shards. Diamond brightness so sharp your eyes almost flinch. Beryl with that ocean green glow that makes you think of depth and cold and drowning. Onyx that drinks light instead of reflecting it. Jasper, like storm clouds trapped inside a polished surface. Sapphire that looks like the idea of blue, perfected and sharpened. And they aren't dangling off him like accessories. They're integrated, set, built into him the way bones are built into you. You've seen people overdress for weddings. This is beyond that. This is the jewelry store exploded, and the explosion was organized by someone with a doctorate in beauty. As he shifts, just a small movement, nothing dramatic, the stones answer. They don't clink. They don't scrape. They don't make the petty little noises your world makes. They shimmer. They throw color into the air, and the air accepts it like it was waiting. It's almost annoying. You stand there in your human existence, feeling like a smudged thumbprint, watching a being who looks like creation's final draft. And it isn't only visual. The sound changes when your attention lands on him. You've been hearing worship as atmosphere, like the whole realm is one continuous chord. But near him, the chord develops edges, texture, definition. It's like the difference between standing outside a cathedral and stepping inside when the choir hits a note that makes the building vibrate. Except there is no building. There is only presence. And he is part of how the sound moves. He isn't holding an instrument. He isn't reaching for a harp. He isn't adjusting a strap or clearing his throat like, "All right, everyone, let's bring it in." The music is in him, not metaphorically. You realize, with a slow, bewildered horror, that the shapes along his form, subtle ridges, openings, channels, aren't decorative. They're functional, pipes, tabrets, built in. Your brain tries to picture how that would work in a body made of flesh and panics a little. You imagine lungs and valves and saliva and the gross reality of having literal instruments embedded in you. Then you realize he isn't gross, he isn't sticky, he isn't damp, he isn't dealing with the daily humiliations of biology. No sweat, no bad breath, no weird knee pain when the weather changes. He's a being of splendor, and even his mechanics are elegant, which frankly feels unfair. He turns his head, slightly, just enough that the gemstones along his shoulders catch the throne's light differently, and the sound blooms, not louder, fuller, like something invisible just sat down at a console and pushed a fader up. Your ribs pick up the vibration. Your teeth hum in your skull. Your stomach does that slow flip again, like it's still trying to file complaints in a place that doesn't accept paperwork. Around you, the host, those ranks upon ranks of beings, respond without being told to. There's no attention barked out, no awkward shuffle into formation. They align the way iron filings align around a magnet, because he's not merely beautiful. He's positioned, he's placed, a covering cherub. You don't have to know what that job description means to feel it. Covering means proximity. It means closeness to danger and glory. It means you're stationed near the point where reality burns hottest. You get the sense that, in a realm where everyone has a role the way stars have gravity, his role is, yes. Yes to the throne. Yes to the radiance. Yes to worship. He's the kind of being where yes looks like a person. The six-winged ones keep circling and calling holy, and the elders remain low, crowns scattered like offerings. But when his presence flexes, again, not dramatic, just a shift in attention, the whole soundscape knits tighter. You can't help the thought that comes to you, modern and inappropriate. This is the cosmic worship leader. Except there's no stage, there's no microphone, there's no, "Can you hear me back there?" His very existence is the cue. You watch him take one step. It's a simple motion. Foot, if it's a foot. Moving across the glassy expanse, weight distributing like it belongs to physics, but isn't bound by it. The sea doesn't ripple, because the sea doesn't do ripples. Still, light under him brightens as he passes, like the surface remembers him. And then the sound changes again. It becomes layered, like harmonies stacking in perfect alignment, No one coming in early, no one drifting flat, no one doing that thing where a crowd tries to clap in rhythm and turns into a disaster. This is precision. This is beauty that doesn't wobble. It makes you feel something sharp in your chest. Grief, maybe. Not because it's sad, but because you've lived in a world where everything is a little off. Every song you've ever loved had a flaw. Every voice cracked. Every performance had a limit. Here, perfection moves, and the universe accommodates it. You realize you're staring. Again. You try to stop. You can't. The gemstones aren't the only thing that makes him radiant. It's his posture. He stands like someone who has never doubted the purpose of his own design. No slouching, no uncertainty. No, do I look weird if I stand like this? He looks like the original blueprint for confidence. And it's not arrogance, not yet. It's simply fitting, like a key that has never been forced into the wrong lock. He lifts his arms, slowly, smoothly, and the built-in music in him responds. Air moves through him in a way you can't fully track. Channels open. Vibration travels along his form, and what comes out is sound so clean, it makes you want to apologize for every time you sang in the shower. It's not one instrument. It's an orchestra hiding inside one being. Low tones roll out first, like distant thunder that doesn't threaten but anchors everything. Then higher notes lace through, bright and ringing, like light turned into sound. And the choir, if you can call it a choir when it's the population of heaven, joins. Not because he demands it, because he makes it easy. You've been in rooms where someone walks in and the vibe gets weird. You felt that social gravity. This is social gravity with actual glory attached. He moves his hands and the sound swells, and you can tell, somehow, that he knows every voice, every timbre, every part. He knows how to weave them without tangling. It's like watching someone braid 1,000 streams into one river without spilling a drop. Your mouth tastes like clean metal again. You swallow. The act feels loud in a place where no one clears their throat. You become intensely aware of your own small noises, your heartbeat, the soft click of your teeth when you close your mouth, the ridiculous moistness of being a creature that needs saliva. No one else seems bothered by the fact you're basically a walking water balloon. They're all focused. They're all responding. He steps closer toward the throne, and you expect something to happen. Some barrier, some warning, some cosmic security guard with too many eyes. But he's allowed. He belongs there. He is, in a way you can feel in your bones, one of the most trusted creations in the room, anointed, set apart. And as he draws nearer, the gemstones on him catch the throne's layered light and break it into colors your mind still can't name. You try anyway, because your brain is stubborn. It comes up with blue-green fire and then gives up. He lifts his head toward the radiance, and the music inside him shifts key like it's breathing. The worship around him becomes almost physical. You feel it in your skin, like warm pressure. You feel it behind your eyes, like tears that don't fall because your body is too overwhelmed to commit. And you realize something else, unsettling and strangely intimate. He feels it too, not just as a duty, not just as a role. He feels the beauty like a living thing, and he responds with everything he is. This isn't bored professionalism. This is devotion woven into design. For a moment, just a moment, the earlier cold thread you sensed seems to disappear. The longing becomes pure, clean yearning toward the throne. It's almost a relief. You let your shoulders drop a fraction, and the air prickles along your arms. All those eyes, always the eyes, not accusing, not suspicious, just aware. You glance toward the wheels again, those upright storms of metal and eyes, and you catch them watching him too. Not with emotion, exactly, with attention, as if even the mechanisms of heaven recognize his station. He raises one hand slightly, and the tabrets, those built-in percussive elements, answer with a rhythm so subtle you almost miss it. But your body doesn't miss it. Your pulse aligns to it without asking permission. It's like he can tune your nervous system, which is a deeply uncomfortable thought. If you're the kind of person who likes to feel in control of yourself, you watch the elders remain bowed, crowns down, faces to the crystal floor. Their bodies are still, but the space around them vibrates with the sound. Their robes don't flutter because there's no messy wind here. The fabric just exists perfectly. Of course it does. Nothing gets wrinkled in heaven, not even dignity. He turns slightly, and as he turns, you see more of the detail in him. Not just gemstones, but workmanship, crafted beauty that looks like it was made with laughter and precision. Every edge of him is finished. No rough seams, no awkward angles, no, we'll fix that in post. He looks like a being that never needed fixing. You don't even know how to hold your own hands. You clasp them, then feel silly, then let them hang, then feel exposed, then clasp them again. He, meanwhile, stands like he invented composure. The worship rolls on, and you find yourself caught in it. Not because you're instructed to join, not because you're trying to be impressive, because it's hard to resist a river when you're standing in it. Your thoughts, usually frantic little sparrows, slow down. They settle. They stop ricocheting off every terrifying detail. You can't comprehend the throne, not fully, but you can comprehend beauty. And this being, this morning star presence, translates the overwhelming into something shaped, not smaller, just shaped. You understand, in the way you understand music more with your chest than your brain, why he's called a light bearer. Not because he originates light, because he carries it. He reflects it with such clarity that it looks like it belongs to him. That's the dangerous part, even before anything goes wrong. You can see how someone like this could forget if they ever wanted to. He lifts both arms now, and the pipes within him resonate. The sound is so pure it feels like a clean cloth pulled across your mind. It scrapes away the static. You become aware of things you didn't notice before. Tiny threads of harmony in the background, a shimmering overtone in the voices of the 6 winged ones. The way the many waters roar has a pitch. Everything has pitch. Everything has place. Everything is organized toward the throne, and he is one of the main organizers. You drift a step, just one, not bold. More like your feet are drawn forward, and you immediately regret it, because proximity is intense. The air near him is different. It's not colder or warmer exactly. It's clearer. It feels like standing near a waterfall where the mist cleans your skin, except there's no wetness, just clarity. Your eyes sting again. Your body wants to cry because it doesn't know what else to do with being this overwhelmed. You look at him up close, closer than you meant to be, and you see that the gemstones are not random. They're arranged, balanced, colors distributed like someone cared about symmetry so much they made it holy. And beneath the gemstones, his form is luminous, like polished metal warmed from within. He isn't glowing like a lantern. He's glowing like a star holds itself together. You notice, bizarrely, that he smells like nothing you recognize. Not floral, not spicy, not incense. He smells like clean stone after rain, and ozone, and something like crushed mint, sharp and bright. The kind of scent that makes your sinuses feel embarrassed for ever being clogged. You take a careful breath through your nose and your lungs feel too small. As he moves, the built-in music shifts again, and now you can hear individual textures. A low flute-like hum, a bell tone, a soft percussion like fingertips on stretched skin. Except it's not skin, it's something better, something flawless. You don't want to think about what it would be like if it were skin. You've seen what happens to instruments in a damp climate. You've seen what happens to people with bad posture. This being has neither problem. He's the opposite of maintenance. He turns his head and for a moment, you catch his face. It isn't human. It isn't animal. It isn't the mash-up nightmare of faces you saw circling the throne. It's singular, focused, designed to communicate beauty without needing to explain it. His eyes, if you can call them eyes, reflect the throne's radiance, and there's intelligence there that makes you feel like a child holding a crayon next to a master painter, perfect in wisdom. You can feel it. Not in a smug way, not in a look how smart I am way. In a quiet, settled way, like wisdom is simply his normal state. You've met people who are clever, and they make sure you know it. They drop little hints. They smile at the right time. They wait for compliments like a plant waiting for sunlight. He doesn't do that. He doesn't need to. His wisdom feels like part of the architecture, like one of the supporting beams of heaven has decided to take a walk. He looks toward the throne again, and the worship rises in response, swelling until it feels like it's pressing against your skin from the outside. You can't tell where the sound ends and the light begins. They blur. You realize your hands are trembling. You tuck them against your sides and try to pretend you're fine. You are not fine. Nobody is fine in here. Fine is a word for offices and grocery stores and bland conversations. Fine does not survive contact with the throne room. He lowers his arms gradually, and the music doesn't stop. It never stops. But it changes, transitioning into a softer movement, like a river turning a bend. The voices of the heavenly host continue, endless, united, without boredom. And you get a glimpse of what his role means on a level you didn't understand before. He doesn't create worship from nothing. He shapes what's already pouring out of everyone. He directs it like a conductor who doesn't need a baton, because the baton is built into his being. You watch him step across what feels like a holy mountain, though the ground is still that crystalline expanse. Stones of fire seem to glint nearby, bright points like embers embedded in the floor, except they don't burn out. They just exist, hot and steady. You keep your distance from those because you have common sense. Then again, common sense is struggling in a place where the floor is a sea and the transportation has eyeballs. He passes near one of those fiery stones, and the light reflects off his gemstones in a way that makes him look like he's wearing sunrise. Son of the morning. You understand the name without anyone explaining it. He looks like dawn, concentrated into a person-shaped being. Not the gentle dawn you see through curtains. The dawn that makes shadows flee. The dawn that makes you blink and turn your face away, and yet you can look at him. Not comfortably, but you don't feel like looking will destroy you. It's like he's a merciful version of the throne's intensity. Still overwhelming. Just survivable. As he moves, you see other beings glance toward him. Not fearful, respectful, attentive. It's subtle, because no one here is scrambling for attention like humans do, but you can feel the acknowledgement ripple through the host. They know who he is. They know what he carries. They know his beauty isn't accidental. It's appointed. You drift again, and this time, you feel the eyes of the wheels flick toward you, not threatening. More like, where do you think you're going? You freeze. You do not want to be noticed by the sentient wheel situation. You settle back into stillness, like you're trying to become part of the scenery. Good luck. He pauses, and the music in him holds a note so steady your mind tries to rest on it like it's a ledge. It's comforting in a way you didn't expect, not because it's soft, because it's stable. In your world, stability is rare. Everything changes, everything decays, everything needs repairs. Bread goes stale, metal rusts, people get tired, promises fray. Here, stability isn't rare. Stability is the baseline, and he embodies it. For a long stretch of time, that might be seconds or might be ages, he leads worship without strain. No fatigue, no hoarseness, no need to sip water. His sound is the sound of a being doing exactly what he was made to do. It's almost unbearably beautiful, and that beauty does something to you. It makes you want to be better, not out of shame, out of longing. You want to be as aligned as this, as clean, as whole, as perfectly aimed. But you're human. You are a creature of mixed motives and messy mornings and sudden irritations. You are the kind of being who can ruin a day by being hungry. Standing near him makes you feel that gap, not as condemnation, as contrast. The worship swells again, and he lifts his chin, as if listening for something deeper within the sound. His gemstones brighten, the pipes in him resonate. The tabrets pulse a rhythm like a heartbeat that doesn't panic. He looks radiant enough to make you forget, for a moment, that earlier you sensed a crack, a hairline shift, a cold thread. Right now, he looks like perfect loyalty, like perfect purpose, like perfect beauty given back to the one who gave it. Your mind almost relaxes into that. Almost. Then you see it again. It's tiny. It's so small you could miss it and blame it on your own overwhelmed senses. His gaze lingers, just a fraction longer toward the throne. Not in awe, not in reverence, in a way that feels measuring, like he's looking at the throne the way someone looks at a seat they want. Your stomach tightens. The worship doesn't falter. The host doesn't scatter. The elders don't jerk their heads up in alarm. Everything continues as if nothing happened. Maybe, for everyone else, nothing did. Maybe this is only a tremor you're sensitive to, because you're small and scared and watching too closely. But you feel it. That earlier thread, cold against all this heat, slides through the air again. Longing, sharpened. Not longing to be near the throne. Longing to be where the throne is. He lifts one hand, and the music in him brightens, almost compensating. Almost covering the tremor with beauty, the way someone smiles harder when they're trying not to show they're upset. Except his smile, if it can be called that, doesn't look upset. It looks composed. It looks controlled, and that makes your skin prickle, because control in a place like this feels strange. Everything here yields naturally to the throne. Control isn't necessary. He turns slightly, and his gemstones flare again, dazzling, undeniable, flawless. Perfection, standing within arm's reach of the source of all perfection. A masterpiece so complete it could forget it was made. The sound keeps rolling, holy, 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 like an ocean that refuses to stop being an ocean. And you stand there on the glassy sea, feeling the weight of beauty, hearing music built into a being, watching the morning star glow in the presence of God. Close enough to be stunned by it, close enough to feel the danger of it, close enough to sense that even in a place where nothing decays, a desire can still form, quiet, bright, and sharp enough to cut. But something is changing. You can feel it before you can name it. It's a dissonance in the music, a shadow where there shouldn't be shadows. Nothing in this place casts a normal shadow, because the light isn't coming from one polite little sun up in the corner. The light is everywhere and nowhere, pouring out of the throne like reality can't help itself. So when you sense shade, your whole body reacts. The kind of reaction you get when you walk into a room and the conversation stops half a beat too late. You're still standing on the glassy sea, trying to keep your human knees from doing that humiliating tremble. The worship is still rolling through everything, and the elders are still bowed, and the living creatures are still declaring holy like they've never needed a sip of water once. But the morning star, this flawless, jewel-armored, music-bodied being, has that look again, that measuring, that tiny pause where devotion should be. You watch him hold the note inside, himself, steady enough to balance your whole nervous system on it. And yet, the note has changed, not in pitch, in intention. It's like someone's playing the same song, same tempo, same perfect performance, but they're doing it while drafting an email they shouldn't be drafting. You swallow, and the sound of it feels embarrassingly wet in a place like this. No one else has saliva. You're basically a walking reminder that biology exists. The morning star shifts his weight, so smooth it's insulting. And the gemstones along his chest catch the throne's light and throw it back like a mirror that knows it's pretty. You get this unpleasant sense that he's aware of the reflection. Not the throne's reflection, his. It's hard to explain what that feels like, because you've lived in a world where pride is usually loud. It's someone talking over you at dinner. It's a guy revving a chariot he absolutely cannot afford. It's a person who calls themselves a thought leader with a straight face. This is different. This is quiet. This is the kind of pride that doesn't need applause because it has math. He looks at the throne again, and you can almost feel his mind moving, not scrambling, not doubting, calculating. You've been near people who think they're the smartest person in the room, and you can feel the air go thin around them. They're not listening, they're waiting. They're not present, they're plotting. Now take that feeling and drop it into heaven, where every thought carries weight. It's nauseating. The worship continues, because the worship is bigger than any one being. But right near him, you catch it. A hairline snag in the harmony. A microscopic drag, like a perfect fabric catching on a single rough thread. You look around for the source, because your brain wants it to be anything else. A wheel turning, a creature shifting wings, something. But it's him. It's inside him. The music built into his body still pours out, still flawless in execution. And yet, it no longer feels like a river flowing toward the throne. It feels like a river being redirected. He lifts his chin slightly, and his posture changes. Not dramatically, just enough that you feel it in your ribs, the way you feel a dog stiffen before it growls. He is still beautiful. That's the problem. When an ugly thing goes bad, everyone's like, yeah, I saw that coming. But when something perfect goes bad, it feels offensive, like someone dumping sewage into a spring. You watch him breathe, if it can be called breathing, and the channels within him open. A clean cord blooms across the glassy sea. It's gorgeous. It's also pointed. The sound isn't aimed upward anymore. It's aimed outward, like he's reminding the host what it feels like to be moved by him. And the host responds, because of course they do. They respond the way a field of grain responds to wind. You can feel the attention of countless beings tilt toward him, subtle and automatic. Your stomach twists. This isn't supposed to be about him. He takes a slow step, and the stones of fire nearby flare brighter, like they're reacting to the movement. Light skates along his gemstones and breaks into colors your mind still can't file. It should be pure worship. It should be simple. Instead, it feels like watching someone who's been complimented too many times start believing the compliments are laws of nature. He turns slightly, and you catch the shape of his face again. Perfect symmetry, perfect focus. Eyes like polished depths catching the throne's radiance. And in those eyes, for a flicker, you see it. Not anger, not hatred, not yet. You see desire. Desire with direction. The kind of wanting that has already begun writing a plan. You felt wanting like hunger, like loneliness, like that late-night urge to reorganize your whole life because you watched one motivational video. This wanting is older than hunger. This wanting is hunger deciding it deserves to be fed first. The sea of glass doesn't ripple, but you feel an inner ripple anyway, like your soul is trying to back away. You can't. There's nowhere to back away to. You are present in the throne room, and presence here is not optional. He glances across the host, across ranks of beings that don't fidget, don't whisper, don't get distracted. And the look on him is almost proprietary, like he's checking inventory, like he's seeing who's watching. And a strange thing happens. A few faces turn toward him a fraction longer than they need to. Not because they're disloyal, because he is magnificent, and magnificence is naturally magnetic. It's not their fault. It's the way you can't help looking at a fire, even when you know you'll get burned. The morning star holds his arms slightly out from his sides, a posture that reads like openness, but it feels like it's taking up space, claiming it. You've met people who stand in doorways like they own the building. Now scale that up until the doorway is reality itself. The worship keeps going, holy, 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 like an ocean that won't stop being an ocean. But close to him, you hear something else underneath it, a new rhythm. Not the throne's rhythm, his. It creeps in like a heartbeat that started to race. It's subtle because he is subtle. He's the kind of being who can hide poison inside perfume. He steps closer to the throne again. Your instincts scream that this should humble him. That closeness to the source should erase any self-focus like fog under sun. But you watch him, and instead of shrinking, he seems to expand. Not in size, in attitude. Like proximity has convinced him that he belongs there not as servant, but as equal, or worse, as replacement. You realize you're holding your breath. Your lungs ache a little, because you're still a creature that runs on oxygen like some kind of fragile candle. He doesn't notice your discomfort. He doesn't notice anything small right now. His gaze is locked, and the thought finally forms in the air between you, not spoken out loud, but so clear you almost hear it. Why not me? It lands like a drop of ink in clear water, tiny, spreading, ruining everything quietly. The morning star shifts again, and the gemstones along his shoulders flash. They don't just reflect, they announce. It's like his beauty is talking now, even when his mouth doesn't. Look at me. Look how I hold the light. Look how the sound follows me. Look how easily they respond. And somewhere inside that beauty, you feel the first turn. Not a stumble, a decision. It doesn't come with thunder. It comes with a thought that feels like a hand reaching towards something that isn't theirs. His music swells, and a wave of sound runs through the host. It's perfectly timed, perfectly tuned. It also feels like a demonstration, like he's showing what he can do. You've seen a person do a little too much at a party. They start telling stories louder, laughing bigger, drawing eyes, pulling focus. Now put that behavior in a realm where focus is supposed to belong to the throne alone. It's unbearable. He draws in the host with another movement, and you see a few beings lean in attention, not physically, but with their whole awareness. It's like watching heads turn toward a charismatic speaker, even when they know they shouldn't. The elders remain bowed. The living creatures keep their cry. The throne doesn't react. The throne does not scramble to compete. The throne simply is, and that somehow makes the morning star's desire sharper, because there is no insecurity at the center, no rivalry, no fear. So if rebellion happens here, it doesn't happen because the throne is weak. It happens because someone chooses to want what isn't theirs. He draws closer to the stones of fire, and the heat, if you can call it heat, intensifies. You feel it against your skin like pressure, like standing too close to a kiln. Your mouth goes dry, which is hilarious, because you are in a place where rivers of life exist, and your body is still like panic, evaporate. The morning star lifts his head higher. His posture becomes vertical, like a tower deciding it's a mountain. You can feel the pride rising in him, and it is such a wrong sensation in a place this clean that your mind starts grabbing for comparisons. It feels like someone tracking mud across a white floor. It feels like someone coughing into a sterile room. It feels like someone taking a masterpiece and deciding the best improvement is to set it on fire. And the worst part is, he doesn't look frantic while he does it. He looks calm. He looks convinced. He looks like he's simply noticing something obvious. You catch it in the way his eyes move over the throne's radiance, not worshipping, evaluating. You can almost hear his thoughts, because they're not messy, they're sharp, they're structured, they're self-justifying in the way only an intelligent being can justify. He has beauty, he has wisdom, he has position, he is close. So why not the seat? Why not the center? Why not the place that everything bends toward? You feel something in you recoil, because you know that line of thought. You've tasted it in smaller ways. You've been overlooked and thought, I could do that better. You've watched someone else get praised and felt that bitter pinch. You've done something good and waited, just a little too long, for someone to notice. You know this impulse. But here, in this realm, it's not a petty mood. It's a cosmic infection. The morning star turns slightly away from the throne, just enough to face the host more directly. And the movement is so smooth, so elegant, that if you weren't paying attention, you'd think it's part of the worship. That's how danger often works. It doesn't come wearing a sign. It comes wearing the same outfit it always wore. He lets a chord ring out, and it's breathtaking. You hate that it's breathtaking. You want it to be ugly now, so the problem is obvious. But it's not ugly. It's still perfect sound. It's still flawless execution. It just carries a different center. The sound is like honey with something bitter mixed into it. The host responds again, because the host is responsive. They're built for harmony. They're built for unified movement. And he knows that. You feel the moment when he realizes he can pull them. Not all of them. Not the ones closest to the throne's direct radiance. The ones whose whole existence is locked into service like gravity. But others. Others who admire. Others who respond. Others who feel the beauty and for a moment let the beauty lead them. His eyes flick across them like a spark searching for dry grass. You hear it now, not with your ears, but with the part of you that recognizes intention, a set of sentences forming inside him. 5 statements, 5 stepping stones across a river he has decided to cross. He doesn't speak them out loud yet. He doesn't need to. He is rehearsing them in the privacy of his own will. And somehow, that private space has weight in a place like this. The first thought lands like a cold bead sliding down your spine. I will ascend. It's not a request. It's not a hope. It's a declaration aimed at the structure of reality. He holds the note in his body, and you can feel him holding the thought with it. I will ascend into the heavens. You almost laugh, and then you don't, because it isn't funny. He's already in the heavens. This is like someone standing in a palace and announcing, I'm going to enter the palace. But you understand what he means. Not location, rank, not altitude, authority. He wants higher than clothes. He wants above. He wants to rise over the order that placed him. The worship continues, and it's like the room refuses to acknowledge his internal speech. The throne remains unthreatened, unwavering, and that lack of reaction makes his pride itch harder. You've seen it in humans. When someone doesn't get the response they want, they escalate. They get louder. They get sharper. They start saying wilder things. Now imagine escalation from a being whose mind can hold 1,000 harmonies at once. He shifts his shoulders, and the gemstones along his collar flare. His beauty is almost weaponized now, like he's turning himself to catch the light at the most flattering angle. He thinks the next statement, and it presses into the air like a blade wrapped in velvet. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. Stars. That's what he calls the host in his mind. Points of light, ranks of brilliance. And he wants to be above them, not alongside them, not leading them in worship, leading them as ruler. You feel a sick clench in your stomach because you can sense what this would require. A throne, a seat, a center, a hierarchy rearranged around him. And for him to be above, others must be below. This is not about beauty anymore. It's about dominance. The morning star lets the music swell again, and you realize the sound is doing something. It's nudging, not forcing, inviting. Like a charismatic leader who tells you, gently, that you deserve more, that your current place is beneath you, that you're too gifted to stay where you are. He doesn't say those words, but the feeling of them travels on the rhythm, and you see a few beings respond with something that looks like agreement, not spoken, not shouted, but their attention tightens toward him, and you realize attention is currency in heaven too. What you look at matters, what you align with matters. The living creatures keep crying holy, and their cry feels like a steady alarm that no one is acknowledging. Holy, holy, holy. As if they're trying to remind the room where the center is. The morning star's eyes narrow slightly, and you see impatience. He's not used to obstacles because he has never had limitations. He has never had to work around weakness. He is perfection, and perfection is now trying to push itself into the one space it wasn't meant to occupy. He thinks the third statement, and it's almost domestic in its audacity. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation. Sit, not stand, not cover, not serve. Sit, the way a king sits, the way a judge sits, the way someone sits when everyone else stands because they have no choice. You picture a chair, which feels absurd here, because nothing is mundane in this place. But the concept is clear. He wants a seat of authority among the assembly. He wants the meeting place of heaven to revolve around him. Your mind flashes to the elders' scattered crowns on the crystal floor. Those crowns look small compared to the throne, but they still mean something. They mean yielded authority. He wants those crowns, not as offerings, but as inventory. He wants every gaze that now pours toward the throne to pour toward him instead. The worship still rolls. The host still sings, and yet the dissonance grows. Not enough to break the song, enough to sour it, like milk starting to turn still drinkable if you don't pay attention, but your body knows. He thinks the fourth statement, and you feel it like a hand squeezing your lungs. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. Clouds, Another human word that barely belongs here. But you get the meaning. Above the highest. Above every layer. Above every boundary. He's no longer talking about a role. He's talking about supremacy. You glance toward the throne, almost expecting fire to lash out, some immediate correction, some lightning bolt consequence. Nothing happens. The throne remains steady. The radiance remains pure. The holiness does not panic. And you realize the throne doesn't need to react to remain the throne. It doesn't need to defend itself like a fragile ego. It simply is. That should humble him. It doesn't. It frustrates him. Because you can't manipulate something that isn't needy. You can't bait it. You can't provoke it into making you the center of the story. He draws in the host again with another wave of sound. And it's so beautiful, you almost hate yourself for feeling it. It would be easier if rebellion sounded bad. It doesn't. Sometimes evil shows up wearing your favorite melody. You sense the fifth statement forming, the last one, the one that makes the others inevitable. It arrives, finally, like a match striking. I will be like the Most High, not serve the Most High, not reflect, not cover, be like. You feel something in the air tighten at that thought, as if the very fabric of the throne room stiffens, like reality has heard the insult and gone still. For a heartbeat, your heartbeat, because you're the only one here who has to deal with organs. The music feels thinner. The holy cry continues, but now it feels like it's pushing against something, like light pushing against a closing fist. The morning star's expression doesn't change. He doesn't look scared. He looks satisfied, like he's finally said the quiet part to himself, like he's finally admitted what the beauty has been whispering to his heart. You stare at him, appalled, and you realize the most terrifying part. Nothing external made him do this. No one shoved him. No one tempted him with something he lacked. He wasn't starving. He wasn't desperate. He wasn't trying to survive. He was full. He was adorned. He was positioned near the throne. He had everything a created being could have, and he still wanted more. You watch him hold his hands open, palms angled slightly upward, the way someone holds their arms when they want applause. He isn't asking for it. He's assuming it. The host's attention continues to tilt, a fraction here, a fraction there. Not everyone, but enough that you can feel the shift. It's like watching a flock of birds turn as one, except some of them hesitate, confused, still oriented toward the true center. The morning star's music keeps weaving through them, and you realize he is doing what he always did. He is shaping worship, but now he's shaping it around himself. He takes another step, and you feel the stones of fire brighten again. The gemstones in his covering blaze like sunrise. For a split second, he looks even more radiant than before, and it hits you with sudden, ugly clarity. Beauty is not the same as goodness. A thing can be stunning and still be wrong. A sound can be perfect and still be crooked. He turns his head, and his gaze lands on you, just for a moment, and you feel seen in a way you don't enjoy. Not the throne's seeing, which is total and pure. This is different. This is assessment. This is a glance that files you under irrelevant. A human, trembling on the glass. A damp little creature with a heartbeat. You're not his concern. His concern is the throne, and the beings around it, and the possibility of pulling them. His eyes slide away from you like you're a smudge on a jewel. The worship continues, and your body feels cold, which is ridiculous, because cold is a weather problem, and weather is not a thing here. But you feel it anyway. Not physical cold, moral cold. The chill of watching someone step toward a cliff and realizing they've decided the fall will be worth it. He lifts his arms again, and the built-in pipes within him resonate. The sound is breathtaking. It's also persuasive. It feels like being wrapped in velvet that's slowly tightening. You see it in the host. Some beings lean toward the sound, drawn by the familiarity of his leadership, by the beauty they've always followed. You want to shout, which is hilarious, because what are you going to do? You, with your little lungs and your fragile vocal cords, you'd croak out one warning and then spend the next week coughing. Also, week is a meaningless concept here. Time is already behaving strangely, stretching and folding. Still, you want to do something. Instead, you watch. Because that's what you do in a place where you don't belong. You witness. The morning star steps to a position where the light hits him perfectly, and you realize he's doing it on purpose. He is arranging himself to be looked at. He's placing his beauty like bait. And it works, because beauty always works. It has always worked. It worked on you, and you walked in with skepticism and a lifetime of disappointment. He knows this realm. He knows its beings. He knows how harmony spreads. His wisdom, once a gift, is now a tool. He stops for a moment, letting the music linger like perfume. The holy cry continues above it, steady and unwavering. But now you can sense tension between the two sounds. The throne's worship is clean, direct, unbending. His music has started to curl inward. It's like a vine growing around a pillar. You catch tiny shifts in the host, attention sliding, alignment drifting. Not fully, not yet, but the seed is in the soil now. And seeds don't need much. They just need time and willingness. The morning star lowers his arms slowly. His gemstones dim a fraction, then flare again as he turns. He looks toward the throne one more time, and the look is no longer measuring. It's claiming, like he's already decided the outcome. He pivots, smooth, graceful, so the host is more fully in his view. You feel the room, if you can call it a room, hold its strange breath. Not because the throne is anxious, because the created order knows something has shifted, like a compass needle wobbling, like a river meeting a fork. His presence seems to swell, not with light, but with will. And you realize this is how perfection poisons itself, not by losing its beauty, by loving it, not by forgetting the throne exists, by deciding the throne should belong to the one who shines. The music built into him continues, but now it's not simply worship. It's a banner. It's a signal. It's the opening move of something that doesn't belong in heaven at all. He stands there, jewel bright, flawlessly composed, and inside him those 5 statements burn like fresh ink on a decree. I will ascend. I will exalt. I will sit. I will rise. I will be like. And the dissonance spreads, so thin you could mistake it for nothing. But you don't, because you can feel it in your bones, the way you feel a storm coming before the first drop hits. The throne remains blazing, unthreatened, impossibly steady. The host continues to sing, and the morning star, beautiful enough to make you blink, begins to gather attention the way a spark gathers tinder. And somewhere in the ranks, a few lights tilt toward him, just slightly, as if curiosity could never become anything worse. Not yet, but the seed is planted, and it is already sending roots into places it should never touch. And then the unthinkable happens. In a realm that has never known conflict, war breaks out. You don't hear a trumpet blast. There's no dramatic everyone grab your swords moment, because first of all, what sword? Second of all, where would you even keep it? Heaven doesn't do belt loops. What you feel is the atmosphere change, Like someone just opened a door to a room you didn't know existed. The worship is still rolling. Holy is still being declared with that relentless, tidal confidence. The throne is still the throne, radiating steadiness like it invented steadiness, and now everyone else is borrowing it. But the host, this endless field of light and will, starts to tense. Not like humans tensing, with shoulders and clenched jaws. More like reality itself noticing a crack and bracing for the sound it's about to make. Your stomach does the same thing it does right before a bad argument. That sinking, oh no, there's no way this is happening feeling. Except this, argument is happening in the place where arguments were never supposed to be possible. You're still on the glassy sea, which is wildly unhelpful, because you can see everything. No corners, no pillars, no tasteful little curtains, just you, standing on a perfectly reflective surface, watching the first conflict spread through a family that has never fought. And it spreads fast. It starts with attention, a glance held too long, a posture that shifts from worship to alignment, a subtle turning, like a flock of birds pivoting mid-air, except these birds are immortal beings and the stakes are everything. The morning star's music keeps pouring out of him, velvet-wrapped and lethal. It doesn't sound like rebellion. It sounds like leadership. That's the problem. He isn't screaming. He isn't frothing. He's not acting like a villain in a cheap play. He's acting like someone who belongs at the center and is simply reminding everyone of a fact they've overlooked. You watch beings you can't even properly look at. Too bright, too many angles, too much presence. Tilt toward him in slow increments. A third doesn't happen all at once. A third happens in thousands of tiny yeses. Yes, he's magnificent. Yes, he's wise. Yes, he's close to the throne. Yes. Why not? It's like watching a crowd at a concert slowly stop singing along and start chanting the artist's name instead. Except the artist is made of gemstones and fire and delusion, and the concert is worship that holds the universe together. The holy cry doesn't change. It stays steady, like a lighthouse beam cutting through fog. Holy, holy, holy. And for the first time since you arrived, you feel resistance. Not from the throne, from within the host. Some of them are pulling toward the throne with everything they are, as naturally as breathing. Others are pulling toward the morning star, pulled by beauty and familiarity, and that slick, confident gravity he's learned to project. Your skin prickles, which is a ridiculous detail to have in heaven, but your body is committed to being embarrassing. Sweat gathers at your lower back, like it's trying to establish a colony. The sea beneath your feet stays still, but the space above it starts to ripple. It's subtle at first, like heat shimmer over a kiln, like the air above desert stones, except there's no desert here and no stones, just layered reality and an absurd amount of light. You realize with a slow, horrible clarity, this is what war looks like when you don't have bodies to bleed. It looks like will pressing against will. It looks like allegiance declaring itself. It looks like harmony refusing to harmonize. The morning star lifts his arms again. The built-in pipes within him resonate, and the sound expands in a way that makes your ribs ache. It's like standing too close to a massive drum. Your organs are politely requesting you relocate. He doesn't look at you. He looks across the host like a commander scanning ranks, not for who's loyal to the throne, for who's loyal to him. You see it happen in pockets. A cluster of lights tightens together. Another cluster drifts away from them, like oil separating from water. A few beings hesitate in the middle, caught between currents, and the hesitation itself feels like pain. Because nothing here was built for hesitation. Nothing here was built for divided loyalty. The throne remains steady, and that steadiness is like pressure on the whole scene, like gravity insisting on which direction is down. The morning star's face, perfect symmetry, flawless composure, hardens into something you can only describe as offended, not scared. Offended. Like he's been told no for the first time and has decided no is a personal insult. His music shifts. It's still beautiful. Still technically perfect. Still the kind of sound that would make you cry if you heard it in any other context. Now it has edges. It slices instead of embraces. And you feel the host react like a living thing. Some recoil, some lean in, some flare brighter, as if brightness itself is a way to declare a side. The first shockwave of conflict doesn't come as an explosion. It comes as a snap, not audible, not visible, a snap in order. One moment, heaven feels like a single breath. The next moment, it feels like two lungs inhaling in opposite directions. Your balance wobbles. You windmill your arm slightly, which is humiliating in front of beings who don't even need ankles. The glass beneath you catches your reflection for a second, small, soft, damp, and you hate it. You're a smear of humanity in a place where everything else is resolved. Two forces take shape in the open expanse, not as armies marching in lines, but as alignments locking into place. One side gathers around the morning star, and the energy there feels tight and sharp, like excitement with a knife hidden inside it, like a crowd that's been promised they'll finally get what they deserve. The other side gathers with a steadiness that feels ancient even in eternity. Their presence doesn't spike. It doesn't perform. It just holds. And in the center of that holding, you feel a name rise like a banner. Michael. He isn't introduced with fanfare. He doesn't need it. He arrives like a wall. You don't see him so much as you register him, the way you register a mountain when you step out of a tent. The shape of him says, boundary. He's luminous, but not decorative. No jewel-encrusted flourish. No look at me angles. His light is clean, direct, almost severe. He doesn't posture. He doesn't audition. He just is. Loyalty given form. Michael's gaze turns toward the morning star, and the space between them tightens. You realize you've been holding your breath again. Your body keeps doing that, like it's contributing. The morning star meets Michael's stare, and for a heartbeat, the whole expanse feels like a held note. Two wills, two centers. One that wants to be the throne. One that refuses to let the throne be treated like a piece of furniture you can relocate. The host around Michael settles into position, and it's not frantic. It's not chaotic. It's coordinated with a calm that makes your nerves feel even worse. This isn't a panic. This is a decision. On the other side, the morning star's gathered ones flare with a different flavor. Their energy is more jagged, more hungry, like they've tasted an idea and can't stop chewing it. They aren't ugly. That's what makes your skin crawl. They're still radiant, still powerful, still visually everything you'd call glorious if you didn't know what was happening. You watch one being near the edge of the morning star's cluster hesitate, their light flickering like a candle in wind. For a second, you feel their tornness like a tug in your own chest. They look toward Michael. They look back toward the morning star. The morning star's music reaches them, wraps around them, and you see them soften into it, like someone being hugged by the person who's about to ruin their life. They drift fully into the morning star's alignment. The moment they do, it's like a star winks out of one sky and appears in another. Your throat tightens. It shouldn't be possible for heaven to lose someone. And yet here it is. Michael doesn't flinch. He doesn't chase. He doesn't scramble like a manager trying to keep employees from quitting mid-shift. He holds. He holds like truth holds when lies get loud. The war begins without a first punch. It begins with proclamation. The morning star's sound pushes outward, carrying authority-shaped claims. Not words you can quote, but meaning you can feel. Mine, center, above, I will. Michael's side answers in a different way, not with competing beauty, not with louder music, with a force that feels like structure itself. Not yours, not ever. The space between them distorts. It's not like air shimmering now. It's like layers of existence folding, as if the clash of wills is bending the fabric of the place you're standing in. Your knees buckle a little. You catch yourself, palms out, as if you can steady yourself against space. There's nothing to touch. There's never anything to touch here. And suddenly you miss walls. You miss floors that don't reflect your terror back at you. The first collision is light meeting light. Not a flash, a grind. Two radiances press together, and you can feel the friction in your teeth. Your fillings would be screaming if you had fillings. A ripple runs across the glassy sea under your feet, though the surface still doesn't move. You feel it inside you, like your bones got briefly rearranged and then politely put back. Michael's angels move with him as if they share a single intent. The morning star's angels move like a storm, fast, brilliant, unpredictable. You want to call it combat, but there's no blood. There's no clanging metal. There are no screams of pain. What you hear is sound breaking. The music that once held everything in worship now fractures into shards. Harmonies that used to fit together like breath and heartbeat now scrape against each other. It's like someone took the most beautiful choir you've ever heard and made them all sing different songs at once, each convinced theirs is the only true melody. The morning star's presence shifts, and for the first time you see him not as the worship leader, but as something else. A dragon shape presses through him, not replacing his beauty, but twisting it. His radiance takes on a heat that feels predatory. His movement becomes coiled. His attention becomes devouring. He is still jewel bright, still flawless in power, but now it's like his beauty has teeth. He lunges, not physically, because physical is a human limitation, but with intent so sharp it might as well be a blade. Michael meets it. The clash sends another ripple through everything, and you feel a pressure in your ears that has nothing to do with altitude. Great. Your body is trying to pop its ears in a place that doesn't have air pressure. You swallow, and it's loud in your own ears, like a wet little animal noise in the middle of cosmic conflict. Around them, the host collides in waves. Beings of fire and light lock into struggle that looks like spirals of radiance twisting around each other. Sometimes one radiance dims. Sometimes it flares violently brighter, as if brightness can be a shove. Sometimes a being is simply displaced. One moment they're aligned with Michael, steady and sure. The next moment they are yanked, pulled, turned. You see loyalty itself get contested, not by force that overwhelms the body, by persuasion that targets the will. The morning star's side doesn't just push, it seduces. It wraps conflict in familiar beauty. It offers significance. It offers elevation. You can feel it, even from where you stand, like a pressure behind your eyes, a whisper without words. You could matter more. You could be higher. You could be seen. And inside you, something small and ugly responds, just for a second. That's the worst part. Even you, damp little oxygen breather that you are, feel the tug. You hate it immediately. You hate how your heart recognizes the offer, because your heart has lived on Earth. Earth is basically a factory that mass produces insecurity. The morning star's side surges, and a wave of their radiance sweeps outward. You watch points of light, stars, in the way heaven uses that word, get caught in it. For a breathless moment, it's almost beautiful. Like a meteor shower turned inside out. Stars sweep, arc, trail brilliance. Except these aren't rocks burning up. These are beings choosing wrong. A third of them tilt. A third of them shift. A third of heaven's lights get dragged into the morning star's gravitational tantrum. They move like a net is being pulled through the sky. You feel it as loss. Not sentimental loss, like you lost your keys. Loss like a limb removed. Loss like something essential just got torn and the tear doesn't close. Michael's side holds the line, and you see their movement change. They stop meeting chaos with chaos. They start pressing forward with a kind of relentless order. Not aggressive in the human sense, more like inevitability. You've seen a tide erase footprints. It doesn't hate the footprints. It just doesn't negotiate. Michael advances, and the space around him clarifies. The distortions smooth out near him, as if reality itself relaxes when loyalty is present. The morning star resists, and the distortions intensify around him, as if existence is getting a rash. Their clash is not just between two leaders, it's between two visions of center. One says, everything bends toward the throne, and the throne does not belong to a created being. The other says, I am so radiant, so gifted, so close, that surely bending toward me is the logical next step. That second vision spreads like smoke. You watch an angel, if that word even fits anymore, hover near the dividing edge, trembling in their light. Their gaze flicks toward Michael's steadiness. It flicks back toward the morning star's brilliance. They look like someone being asked to pick sides at a family dinner, where everyone is pretending this isn't going to ruin holidays forever. They finally drift toward Michael. The moment they do, the morning star's side lashes with a wave of sound that hits like a slap. The angel staggers in midair. Again, air is not a thing here, but you get the idea. And their light flickers. Michael's presence steadies them without touching. Just proximity. Just loyalty like a shield. It's infuriatingly effective. The morning star's eyes narrow. He doesn't like losing. He has never lost anything, because the whole concept of loss didn't belong here until he introduced it like a toxin in the water supply. He surges, and the dragon shape in him becomes clearer. Your mind tries to make it literal. Scales, claws, jaws, because that's how your brain handles threat. What you actually perceive is worse. It's appetite, it's accusation, it's pride turned feral. It's a being who was made to reflect light deciding to generate its own, then resenting everyone who won't call it the sun. Michael doesn't grow more dramatic in response. He doesn't flare with performative rage. He moves with a terrifying simplicity. Forward. The host around Michael moves with him, and their radiance interlocks like plates of armor made of pure intent. The morning star's side crashes against it, and the collision sends sounds skittering across the expanse like shattered glass. You flinch. Of course you flinch. Your body flinches at loud noises and awkward silences and the smell of spoiled milk. It is not equipped for heaven war. You duck your head instinctively, as if something might fly at you. Something does. Not a weapon, an angel. One of the morning star's aligned ones gets shoved back by Michael's advance, and they streak across the space like a comet. They pass close enough that you feel heat on your face, and it's not warm and comforting. It's dry, scouring heat, like the blast when someone opens a kiln door. Your eyes water instantly. You blink hard, and tears float wrong in the air here, catching light like tiny, pathetic prisms. The being regains control and whips back toward the fight, leaving behind a lingering taste of ozone and something sharper, like pride, if pride had a smell. The conflict escalates without getting louder the way human fights do. It gets denser, more concentrated. You feel pressure in your skull, like your thoughts are being squeezed to make room for larger forces. The holy cry continues, steady as ever, but now it feels like a line being held in the background. Not because it's weak, because it refuses to become part of the chaos. Holy, holy, holy. A reminder, a boundary marker, a constant. The morning stars cluster begins to fracture in places, not because they stop being radiant, because they stop being unified. Rebellion looks exciting at first. Big promises, big energy, big, we're taking our destiny back. Then it starts eating itself. Some of the aligned ones push too hard, some hesitate, some angle for position. You can feel the micro jostling, the subtle shifts of me first, even within a movement built on me first. Michael's side doesn't have that problem, not because they're robots, because their center isn't themselves. Their center is the throne, and the throne is not needy. It doesn't demand constant reassurance. It doesn't require them to compete for attention. They can move together without stepping on each other. The morning star lashes out again, and this time the clash with Michael sends a shock through the host that you feel like a wave of cold. Not physical cold, that moral cold again, like watching betrayal happen in slow motion. A being near the front of the morning star's side hesitates, their radiance dimming as if they've suddenly realized what they signed up for. The morning star's attention snaps to them. You feel it like a spotlight turning. The being stiffens. The morning star's music wraps around them, not comforting now, controlling. The being's light flares, as if forced back into enthusiasm. They surge forward again, and you understand with a nauseating clarity. Rebellion doesn't just invite, it coerces, it punishes doubt, it demands performance. Michael presses forward again, and the morning star's side starts to give ground. Not because they're weak, because they are misaligned with the actual structure of the place. You cannot push against the center, forever in the center's own house. You watch the morning star's cluster get shoved back in increments, their radiance scraping against the edges of the space like a storm trying to push inland against cliffs. The stars that were swept, those third, glitter around him like a grim crown. You see them now not as anonymous lights, but as faces, presences, distinct beings who have chosen to bind themselves to his desire. Some look zealous, some look dazed, some look like they're trying not to think too hard about what happens if this doesn't work. Michael's gaze doesn't dart, it holds. He advances again, and the next collision between him and the morning star feels final in a way you can't explain. It doesn't end immediately. It just carries the weight of conclusion. The morning star surges dragon-like, and for a moment you think sheer brilliance might overwhelm steadiness. Because brilliance is flashy, and steadiness is quiet, and humans are trained to assume flashy wins. Michael meets him, and the space around them clarifies so hard it's almost painful. It's like the fog of persuasion gets burned off by simple truth. The morning star's radiance strains. It flares, it spikes, it throws color, like a desperate performer throwing glitter at a crowd that's starting to leave. Michael doesn't flinch. He doesn't need glitter. He has alignment. The morning star's side slams forward one more time, and you feel it as a last attempt to seize the center by force of will. It fails, not with a bang, with a refusal embedded in the bones of reality. The morning star recoils, and for the first time you see something on his perfect face that isn't confidence. It's rage, clean, bright, indignant rage, like he can't believe the universe won't rearrange itself to match his self-image. Around him, his aligned ones falter, not all at once, but in enough places that the whole movement starts to wobble. You feel it in the host like a tremor. Michael advances, and this time the push is not just against the morning star, it's against his entire cluster, against every star swept into his orbit. The expanse fills with motion like a sky full of falling lights. You watch beings get driven back, their radiance trailing behind them like torn banners. The morning star's cluster compresses, and suddenly the war looks less like a grand uprising and more like a crowd being herded toward an exit they didn't think existed. The humiliation of it hits like a slap, not for Michael, for the morning star, because pride can tolerate many things, distance, waiting, even suffering. If it gets to keep dignity, this strips dignity. This makes him not the center in front of everyone. You see his eyes flash, and the dragon shape in him sharpens, coiling tighter. He lashes out with a wave of accusation so intense you feel it try to crawl into you. Not words, but the sensation of blame. He tries to make the throne look unjust. He tries to make loyalty look foolish. He tries to make obedience feel small. For a split second, your human heart recognizes that tactic too. It's the oldest trick in the book. Make the right thing feel embarrassing. Make faithfulness feel naive. Make humility feel like losing. Michael's presence answers without theatrics, not with counter-accusation, with a steady pressure that makes the accusation slide off like oil off stone. The morning star's wave breaks and dissipates, and you almost laugh out of sheer disbelief. Even here, even now, he's trying to win with spin. It's cosmic PR. It's the most terrifying group chat you've ever witnessed. The cluster of rebels gets driven back again, and the space behind them feels like a threshold, not a doorway you can point to, a boundary that suddenly exists because rebellion has made it necessary. You feel your skin prickle again, and you taste that metallic stress taste. Your mouth is so dry it feels like you've been chewing sand. Heaven has no sand. Your body improvises. The holy cry continues, and now it sounds less like background and more like a verdict simply being spoken into the air. Holy, not you. Holy, not your pride. Holy, not your claim. Michael's side presses forward, and the rebels are forced toward that boundary. You see the morning star glance, just a flicker, toward the throne. Not worship, not remorse, calculation. Like he's still trying to find a loophole in existence. Like he's still thinking, surely there's a way to appeal this. There isn't. His cluster buckles again, and the stars, swept with him, swirl in a chaotic halo. Some cling close to him, desperate for leadership, because they've already burned the bridge behind them. Some look outward, as if suddenly aware of the size of what they've chosen. No one can unchoose this now. That's what makes it so heavy. A family has been split, not by misunderstanding, but by will. You feel it in the remaining host too. A grief-like heaviness spreads among the loyal ones, even as they hold. They don't gloat. They don't celebrate. They do what's necessary, and the necessity itself is sobering. Michael's gaze stays fixed. His presence bears down like a closing gate. The rebels are pushed to the edge of heaven's order, to the boundary rebellion has forced into being. And you realize, with your damp human brain trying to keep up, This isn't just a fight. This is an eviction. This is a removal of what doesn't belong. Not because heaven is fragile, but because holiness and corruption cannot share the same center. The morning star's radiance flares one last time, brilliant and furious. It's still beautiful. It's still terrifying. It's still the kind of light you would have followed if you didn't know where it was going. Michael advances again, and the boundary behind the rebels begins to feel like a pull, like gravity flipped, like the floor beneath them is no longer theirs. The rebels resist, and for a heartbeat you see the whole cluster strain, light stretched thin like fabric pulled too hard. You hear a sound that isn't a scream, but feels like one. The sound of glory being torn away from its proper place. The morning star's face contorts, and the dragon in him is undeniable now. He is no longer simply the anointed, jewel-covered cherub. He is adversary in the making. He is accusation given a body-shaped presence. And as Michael's line holds and presses, as the loyal host stands like a wall of living light, you feel the next moment coming. Not the war continuing. The war ending here, the fall beginning. The boundary behind the rebels opens like a drop with no bottom, and the morning star's cluster teeters at the edge of it. Light blazing, will straining, pride screaming without words. You stand on the glassy sea, mouth dry, knees trembling, watching heaven itself prepare to cast something out. And you can already feel the vertigo in the air, like the whole universe is about to watch lightning learn what it means to fall. And then, silence. Not the cozy kind of silence you get in a library. This is the kind that hits right after a glass shatters, when everyone freezes and waits to find out whose fault it was. The holy cry doesn't stop because it doesn't need your permission. Holy, holy, holy. It keeps going like a heartbeat that cannot be negotiated with. But the clash in front of you pauses. Michael is still there, that clean wall of loyalty. The rebels are still there, jewel bright and shaking with stubbornness. The boundary behind them is still open, and it's not a doorway so much as a pure refusal, an edge where belongs ends. You feel it tug at your insides, like gravity just found your organs and started asking for rent. The morning star, he's still painfully beautiful, and that's what makes you sick, holds himself at that edge with all the dignity he can scrape together. His radiance flares and throbs, trying to become a throne by sheer force of personality. It is the cosmic tantrum you've ever witnessed. If pride could slam a bedroom door, this would be it. Except the door is reality. His gathered ones cling close, and you can feel their panic through the light. They're still glowing. They're still powerful. They're still the kind of beings you would have bowed to on instinct. But now the glow looks stressed, like a smile held too long. Michael doesn't step back. He doesn't raise a weapon. He doesn't do anything dramatic, because drama is the morning star's department. Michael simply presses forward one more fraction of forever, and the boundary behind the rebels answers like it has been waiting for this exact moment. The edge becomes a pull. You felt rip currents at the beach grab your ankles and start dragging. This is that, scaled up until it includes your soul. A couple of the rebels wobble, their light stretching thin like taffy pulled too far. They reach. Toward what? You don't know. Toward stability. Toward the center. Toward the throne they decided was optional. Their reaching doesn't find anything. There's no handle on this. There's no appeal desk. The boundary doesn't argue. It just claims what no longer fits. The morning star snarls, without making a sound. You see it in his face, the perfect symmetry twisted into a look that can only be described as personally offended by holiness. His music surges like he's trying to drown the boundary in beauty. It doesn't work. The pull increases, and suddenly his cluster isn't a cluster anymore. It's a mess of lights fighting not to slide. You watch one of the swept stars spin, trying to brace against nothing, and it's horrifying in the most undignified way. There is no elegant way to fall in a place without flaws. Another one reaches for the morning star like a co-worker grabbing the manager during a fire alarm, eyes wide, silently begging, "Tell me you have a plan." The morning star doesn't look at them. He looks at the throne just once, like he's trying to burn the image into his memory for later vengeance. The look isn't grief. It isn't regret. It's a promise with teeth. Your skin feels too tight for your body again. Your nerves are doing that thing where they try to turn cosmic horror into a temperature problem. Michael's presence tightens, and the loyal host around him holds like a single body. No cheering, no celebration, no smug little victory dance. It's more like a doctor setting a bone, necessary, brutal, precise. The boundary surges, the rebels lurch, and the fall begins. It's not like a trap door opening under them. It's more like the concept of up gets revoked. One moment the morning star is resisting, flaring brighter, straining like a living star trying to anchor itself. The next moment, the entire cluster loses purchase, and the whole mass of radiance is yanked downward into the open edge. Downward, even though there shouldn't be down here. Downward, because the universe suddenly decides there is. The motion is so fast your eyes can't track it. It's like lightning ripping through layers of air, except the air is existence, and the lightning is a being who used to lead worship. A scream finally happens, not from mouths, not from throats. It's a scream made of intention tearing, and it hits you like pressure in the sinuses. You flinch and clamp your jaw shut, like that will help. It doesn't. The scream has taste. It tastes like ozone and scorched metal, and that sharp, bitter edge you get when you burn sugar on the stove. Sweetness ruined, beauty ruined. The morning star's radiance trails behind him in ribbons, and for a second, it looks almost gorgeous, like a meteor shower, like glitter thrown into night. Then you realize what you're looking at is glory ripping off him as he falls. Not all of it, not yet, but enough that the brightness behind him looks torn, uneven, like a rope snagging on a nail and unraveling as you run. The swept stars tumble with him, a chaotic spray of light, a third of heaven's former brilliance now falling like debris in the wake of a single catastrophic decision. You can't stop watching. You want to look away, because something in you knows this is private. This is shame on a cosmic scale. But there is nowhere to put your eyes that isn't the fall. The sea reflects it. The expanse holds it. The loyal host is staring too, steady and stricken. The fall accelerates, and the cluster shrinks as it drops, turning into a streak. Lightning. That's the only human word that gets close. The streak flashes through the layers beneath heaven like a knife through fabric. You feel each layer as it tears, like your ears popping during a violent descent, except it's not your ears, it's your sense of place. Heaven stays above you, solid and bright and steady. The throne remains what it is, as if nothing can change it. But below opens, and you see, for the first time, that elsewhere exists. The fall doesn't go into some neutral waiting room. It goes into a place that feels like the absence of worship. Not silence, worse. A quiet that doesn't mean peace. A quiet that means nobody is home. The streak of light plunges into it, and for the briefest moment you see the morning star's form twist as the pull takes him. The dragon shape that pressed through him during war now asserts itself more clearly, like his rebellion finally found a body that matches it. You see angles sharpen, you see beauty become predatory, you see radiance tighten into something less like a lamp and more like a blade. He's still bright, still powerful, still terrifying, but now the brightness reads differently. Before, his light made you think of music and gemstones and glory. Now it makes you think of welding arcs and warning signs and eyes that don't blink. The streak continues downward, and then it's gone. Not fading. Gone, like someone slammed a door on the sun. The silence that follows is heavier than the war. You stand there on the glassy sea, knees trembling, and your own small human sounds feel obscene. Your swallow, your breathing, the wet click of your mouth when you try to swallow again, and there's nothing to swallow, because your throat has turned to sandpaper. The loyal host doesn't move. They don't rush to fill the gap. They don't scramble to rearrange like, okay, everyone, new worship leader, quick huddle. They hold, and the holding feels like grief wrapped in discipline, because heaven didn't just lose an enemy. Heaven lost a brother. You feel it in the air, if you can call it air, the ache of an absence that shouldn't exist. A missing note in the chord. The holy cry continues, holy, holy, holy. It sounds the same as before, and yet it doesn't. Now you can hear what it cost to keep saying it when something beloved has torn itself out of harmony. Michael remains at the edge where the boundary opened. The boundary is still there, but it's shrinking, sealing, stitching itself closed like a wound that refuses infection. The pull that yanked the rebels down is gone, replaced by a hard line of separation. A no that will not soften. Michael doesn't look triumphant. He looks finished, not tired, not drained, just complete in the way a verdict is complete. His gaze lingers on the place where the morning star vanished, and you feel the weight of that gaze in your chest. Like even loyalty has a moment of mourning, even when it's right. The boundary seals shut. There's no dramatic sound, no boom, no fanfare. It just closes. And the closing is final in a way your bones recognize. The kind of final you feel when you lock a door behind you and realize you forgot your keys inside. Except the keys are redemption, and nobody is unlocking it. The host exhales as one, again, not lungs, not breath, but the collective release of tension. The space stops, rippling. The glass under your feet stops feeling like it might tilt. Order settles back into place, but the gap remains. You keep staring at the spot where the fall disappeared, and your mind keeps trying to follow it, like your eyes are a dog on a leash pulling towards something dangerous. Your imagination obliges. You feel the drop in your stomach like you're the one falling, and for a moment, just a moment, you are. You're pulled along the trail of that lightning streak, and it's like your awareness slips through layers it was never meant to touch. The brightness of heaven fades above you, not because it's weak, but because you're moving away from it at a speed that feels illegal. The air, yes, now it's more like air, gets harsher. The smell changes. Up there, everything was clean in a way that made your human sweat feel embarrassing. Down here, the scent is sharp and acrid, like burned minerals and storm-charged dust. Ozone again, but dirtier. Like lightning hit a landfill, the light changes too. It's not the soft impossibility of heaven's radiance. It's jagged, flickering. It comes in violent flashes and then drops away, leaving you with the sense that darkness is the default, and light has to fight to exist. You sense the rebels still falling, not drifting, falling with momentum, with the kind of speed that turns fear into a physical force. The swept ones tumble, some spinning out, some clinging to the morning star's presence like he's a lifeboat. But a lifeboat can't save you if it's also sinking. The morning star, no, not that name anymore, burns through the drop like a meteor that refuses to go out. His light is still there, but it has changed color. It has that blue-white bite of a flame that consumes rather than warms. His music is gone. Or maybe it's still there, but mangled. What used to be worship now sounds like distortion, like a perfect song played through a speaker that's been stabbed. He isn't singing holiness. He is radiating grievance. The falling compresses time in a bizarre way. Seconds feel like years. Years feel like a blink. Your mind keeps reaching for landmarks, for reference points. There aren't any. Just down, just away. Just the sickening sense that you're leaving home with no intention of returning. The rebels begin to change as they fall. Not all at once, not with a magical costume swap, with erosion. Their radiance frays, their edges sharpen. Their unity collapses into hierarchy and suspicion. You can feel it among them immediately, this sudden jostling for position. Because when the center is me, then the next question is, which me? They bump into each other, and the collisions don't draw blood. They draw spite. They draw accusation. They draw a kind of hunger that wasn't in them before, and the morning star's presence encourages it. He doesn't comfort them, he uses them. You can feel the shift in how he looks at them. Before, he gathered them like a leader. Now he holds them like a horde. Resources, witnesses, weapons. The fall keeps going. And the temperature, yes, temperature now, drops and spikes in 6 cycles. Cold enough to make you feel brittle, then heat like an open furnace. Your skin prickles, your teeth want to chatter. Your body has no idea what to do with metaphysical altitude sickness. The scent grows stronger. Burnt stone, sulphurous tang. The stale dryness of places where nothing green has ever grown. Is the smell of a room that's been closed for centuries, full of old smoke and old anger. The morning star's light flickers, and in the flicker you see something that makes you recoil. Not ugliness exactly. A mask slipping. His beauty is still there, but it sits on him differently now. Like expensive clothes worn by someone who hates you. His eyes are focused, not upward anymore, but forward. Toward the lower realms. Toward somewhere that isn't heaven. Toward a place he can ruin. And that's when you feel it. The name changing. It doesn't happen with a ceremony. No one announces it. No one hands him a title plaque. It's more like you realize you can't call him light bearer when the light is now a weapon. You can't call him morning star when he's moving toward night with intention. You feel the word form in the atmosphere around him like a shadow learning to speak. Adversary, accuser, Satan. The name fits him the way a bite fits a mouth. He doesn't mourn the old name. He sheds it like skin. The fall ends, not gently, not with a landing, but with impact. They hit a realm that feels dense, heavy, resistant. Not earth, not yet. Something beneath the bright places and above the human places. A middle depth full of locked doors and chained boundaries. Their momentum slams into it and stops, and the shockwave ripples through your awareness like a concussion. Some of the swept ones scatter outward, spinning away like sparks from a grinder. The morning star, Satan now, Satan, because you can't pretend otherwise, holds his position in the gloom like a coal that refuses to cool. The darkness around him doesn't swallow his light. It frames it. It makes the light look sharp, aggressive, unkind. He turns slowly and looks back up. You don't know if he can see heaven from here. You don't know if the boundary is visible, but you can tell he knows where it is. and you can tell he hates it. His expression isn't heartbreak, it's litigation. Like he's already drafting accusations in his head, already building a case, already promising himself he will prove the throne wrong. Around him, the others hover, restless. Some look shaken, as if the thrill wore off, and now they're standing in the aftermath, realizing they burned down their own house because they wanted a better view. Some look furious, feeding off his fury. Some look empty, like their light doesn't know what to do without the structure of worship. No one says, "We made a mistake." No one says, "Can we go back?" because the back is sealed. He lifts a hand, an implied hand, a gesture of will, and the chaos tightens around him. He pulls the scattered ones closer, gathering them into something like ranks. He doesn't inspire hope. He imposes direction. It's the first taste of what his kingdom will be like. Not a home, not a harmony, but a machine that runs on resentment. And then he moves, not upward, not toward heaven, not toward reconciliation, down and forward, like a predator leaving the forest edge and heading for a village. Your awareness snaps back. You're standing again on the glassy sea above, in the throne room, where the air is too clean and the light is too honest. The contrast is so sharp it makes you dizzy. The loyal host is still there, arranged around the throne in steadiness that looks almost like nothing happened. Almost. But the emptiness, where a third fell, is visible now if you know how to look. How? Not as a hole in space, as a thinning in the crowd, as missing presences, as a silence in the harmony where certain voices used to be. You feel the ache of it. And the strangest part is, heaven doesn't scramble to pretend it's fine. It doesn't put up decorations. It doesn't host a "we're still thriving" banquet. It simply remains holy, which means it remains true. The holy cry continues, and now it feels less like awe and more like anchoring. Like the universe gripping the rail after a storm tried to throw it overboard. Holy, holy, holy. You find yourself looking at Michael again. He turns away from the sealed boundary with a slow, deliberate motion. No flourish, no dramatic cape swish. He doesn't need to posture. He passes through the loyal host, and they shift to make way for him, like a current parting around a stone. As he moves, the last tremors of war fade out of the space. The distortions smooth. The ripples in the layered reality settle. Order is back, but innocence is not. You feel it in your own body first because your body is always the first to betray you with honesty. Your shoulders ache like you've been carrying something. Your eyes burn from staring at too much brightness and too much horror. Your mouth is still dry, and you can't stop thinking about the way the boundary shut. No slam, no argument, just final. You glance at the throne because you can't not. And the throne is still the throne, steady as ever. The radiance is unchanged. The authority is unshaken. And yet you feel somehow that the universe just crossed a line it can never uncross. Not because the throne is threatened, because now, somewhere out there, an adversary exists, a will that will not align, a mind that will not worship, a being who knows heaven's beauty intimately and has decided to weaponize that knowledge like a disgruntled employee who stole the company's secrets on a flash drive. You hate how modern that sounds, and you hate how accurate it feels. The host resumes the motions of worship fully, but there's a new layer to it, like a scar under the skin. The praise is not naive anymore. It is chosen. It is loyal on purpose. You realize the loyal ones aren't worshipping because it's the only thing they can imagine. They're worshipping because they saw what happens when someone imagines something else. The sea under your feet reflects the throne, and in the reflection, You look small and damp and overwhelmed. You keep expecting the glass to show you the falling streak again, like a replay you didn't ask for. It doesn't. Heaven doesn't do replays. It does reality. You turn your gaze back to the sealed edge one more time, because your mind wants closure like it's a human resources policy. There is no closure. There is only a boundary that will hold. The sealed place looks normal now, as if nothing ever opened there, as if no one ever fell through it. But you can still feel the memory of the pull in your stomach. You can still smell that burnt ozone bitterness at the back of your throat. You can still hear the scream that wasn't a scream, the sound of glory tearing away from its proper home. And somewhere far beneath, beyond your sight and beyond your reach, that fallen light is moving through darker places with a new name and an old rage. You remain where you are, in the blinding steadiness, on the sea that doesn't ripple beneath the unshakable throne. The worship continues, the holiness continues, but now you know what exists outside the boundary. Now you know what a lightning fall feels like when the lightning is alive and the fall is chosen. And the door is closed, not with anger, not with panic, but with the terrible calm of permanence. When the light fades and the battle ends, what remains? A universe forever changed, and a story just beginning. You're still on that glassy sea, still blinking like your eyes are trying to reboot. The light is steady again, the kind of steady that feels almost rude. Like reality just watched a disaster happen and decided to keep its schedule. The air, if you can call it air, goes back to that impossibly clean sharpness. No smoke, no sweat, no battlefield stink. Just that antiseptic holiness that makes your human skin feel like a crime scene. The holy cry keeps rolling. Holy, holy, holy. It hits the same notes, but your insides don't hear it the same anymore. Before, it was overwhelming because it was big. Now it's overwhelming because you understand what it cost to keep saying it after losing someone. You keep looking at the spot where the boundary sealed. You expect scorch marks, a crack, a cosmic dent, something, anything. There's nothing. It's like the universe cleaned up the mess the way a host wipes a counter after a guest breaks a glass. Quick swipe, gone. Don't make it weird. Except it is weird, because the glass was a third of the radiant host, and you can't unsee that. The loyal ones remain where they were, but the spacing is wrong now. Not wrong as in disordered. Wrong like a choir with a chunk missing. The empty risers still warm from bodies that aren't there. You can't stop noticing the gaps, even when you try to stare at the throne like a normal, sane creature would. You watch beings of fire and light adjust without adjusting. Nobody panics. Nobody scrambles. Nobody goes running around with a clipboard yelling, "Okay, who's covering the west quadrant of eternity?" But you feel the quiet recalibration in the way they hold themselves, like shoulders set, like hands folded tighter, like everyone in the room just discovered betrayal is possible. Somewhere close, one of the living creatures turns slightly. You don't know how you know it's turning. It's covered in eyes, and the whole thing is basically a moving nightmare of awareness, but its attention angles, and you feel it pass over the empty spaces. Not curious, not shocked, grieved. It's the strangest kind of grief too. There's no wailing, no sobbing, no dramatic collapsing onto fainting couches, because apparently heaven doesn't do fainting couches. It's grief with a spine, the kind that looks at loss and says, "We will still stand." The elders, those thrones around the throne, sit with a stillness that makes your teeth ache. Crowns stay on heads. White garments stay smooth. Nobody is frantically picking at fabric like they need something to do with their hands. Their worship doesn't get louder to cover the silence. It doesn't get softer either. It stays true. And somehow that's what makes it feel like morning. Like the whole place refuses to lie about what happened, but refuses even harder to let the rebellion define the day. You notice something else too. The sound is cleaner now. Not better, not improved, just cleaner. Like a song after you remove an instrument that was secretly carrying a lot of flair. You can still hear the melody. You can still feel the power. But the shimmer that used to ride on top of it, the gemstone bright showmanship, is gone. You hate how much you notice. You hate how much you miss it, because missing it feels disloyal. Like missing a toxic co-worker who brought donuts. Like yes, they were a nightmare, but the break room feels empty now. Michael stands off to one side, no longer braced at the sealed edge. He looks the way a sword looks after a battle. Not bloody, not dented, just return to stillness while you're still vibrating. Other loyal ones drift near him, and you feel their communication like pressure changes. No gossip, no can you believe him energy. More like a silent exchange of burden, a shared weight being distributed, because apparently, even immortal beings know you don't carry everything alone. Time doesn't move normally up here, but something like after settles into place. The war is over, the wound is fresh, and heaven, unbelievably, keeps functioning, which is offensive in a way. You half expected the universe to stop and hold a memorial service. Maybe put up a tasteful little plaque. Maybe dim the lights. But the throne remains the throne, and holiness keeps being holy. And there's a lesson in that you feel in your bones. The throne does not wobble. The throne does not negotiate. The throne does not spiral. You drift, because walking feels like a weird concept on a glass sea, and you pass near where the host is densest. The light around them is so bright it washes out edges, but you still sense individuality. Each one is a will. Each one is a yes that is chosen. And now you know no is possible. It changes the flavor of everything. You catch the faintest echo of something that isn't sound, a memory of music almost. The kind of phantom sensation you get when you leave a loud concert and your ears keep ringing. Except it's not ringing, it's absence. The space where the morning stars built in pipes and tabrets used to lace through worship is just not there. You want to be mad at him for making you miss it. You want to be mad at him for taking something beautiful and turning it into a weapon, like someone smashing a violin over a head. It would have been easier if he'd been ugly from the start, but he wasn't. And that's the part that sticks to your brain like tar. You realize the loyal ones aren't staring into the sealed boundary anymore. They're watching outward, not in fear, in readiness, like guards after an attempted breach, still calm, still trained, but now very aware that an enemy exists who knows the layout. Someone who has walked these halls, so to speak. Someone who knows where the doors are. Even if he can't open them from this side, the atmosphere hums with a kind of alertness you felt in human places. A city after an earthquake, when everyone keeps glancing at the buildings. A household after a huge fight, when people keep acting normal, but the air tastes wrong. You didn't know eternity could taste wrong. It does. And while heaven holds its posture, steady, bright, unshaken, your awareness keeps skittering toward the elsewhere below, toward the place that smelled like lightning hit a landfill, because you know he's down there, not crying, not repenting, planning. Your mind slips, and it isn't like falling this time. It's like your attention gets grabbed by a hook and reeled downward, through layers where the light thins and the temperature starts behaving like a menace. That sharp, clean holiness fades behind you, not defeated, just distant. Down here, the air has texture. It's gritty, like you can chew it. It tastes like burnt pennies and old smoke. Every breath feels like licking the inside of a cold furnace. The darkness isn't restful. It's active. It presses in like a crowd, like a mob that doesn't touch you but wants you to know it could. You sense him before you see him, because he's still bright enough to bruise the gloom. That blue-white bite of light hangs in the air like an exposed wire sparking. The space around it looks scorched, like reality itself backed up a step. Satan, because that name sits on him now like armor, moves through this place without walking. He glides the way oil spreads. The fallen ones cluster around him, and it's already not brothers anymore. It's not family. It's not harmony. It's an organization. And you can feel how fun that is going to be. Their radiance is uneven, frayed at the edges. Some still shine like heated metal. Some flicker like cheap lamps in a storm. A few look dimmer already, like their light is being rationed. Nobody sings, nobody dares. Any music left in them has the vibe of a complaint, lodged so hard it became a lifestyle. They hover over terrain that barely qualifies as terrain. Jagged shapes, sharp silhouettes, broken ridges that look like teeth. There's a smell of sulfur and mineral dust, like the world's worst spa treatment. You keep expecting to hear dripping water or wind or anything normal. This place doesn't do normal. It does emptiness with an attitude. Satan turns slowly, and you feel the movement like a hand turning a knife. His beauty is still there, and it's still infuriating. It's just weaponized now. The symmetry doesn't invite. It intimidates. His eyes, too bright, too focused, keep lifting toward the layers above. Not like he expects to return, but like he's memorizing angles. He's cataloging. He's building a map in his mind because spite loves a blueprint. One of the fallen drifts closer, like they're about to ask a question. Not allowed. Nothing needs to be allowed. But you feel the energy of it. What now? Where do we go? What's the plan? Satan doesn't comfort. He doesn't soothe. He doesn't do a little motivational talk about fresh starts. He radiates something colder. Purpose. It pours off him like a chemical spill. You watch him draw them in, tightening their cluster, bending their attention the way a magnet bends filings. This is how he leads now, not by inspiring love, but by focusing hunger. He gives them something to chew on, mentally, a target, not heaven, not the throne, not directly, something lower, something softer. Because even an adversary knows you don't headbutt a mountain and call it strategy. The fallen ones react with a ripple of interest, not joy. Interest, the way a pack reacts when it smells food, and you feel what he's aiming at before you can even name it. It's not a place yet. It's a future vulnerability. It's the fact that the Creator doesn't just make servants. He makes beings with choice. That detail, choice, sits in the air like fresh blood. Time shifts again, as it does in places like this. It doesn't march, it slides. And somewhere above, beyond these harsh layers, something new begins to exist. Not as a rumor, not as an idea, as construction. You sense it like vibrations in the structure of reality, like distant hammering, except the hammer is will, and the building materials are nothingness. Light gets spoken into being, and down here, Satan lifts his face as if he can taste it. The first new light isn't holy throne room light. It's a different kind. It's warm, it's raw, it's eager. It doesn't know what it is yet. It's baby light, and Satan watches it the way someone watches a naive tourist step into a scammy marketplace with a fat purse and no street sense. More layers unfold. Sky, water, land. You feel oceans settling into basins like a giant sigh. You feel rock hardening, cooling, cracking. You feel the air thicken with humidity and the sharp green bite of life beginning. Down here, the sulfur stink doesn't go away, but it gets jealous. Because above, there's a new smell now. Soil, wet stone, growing things, the sweet rot of leaves forming, the first honest stench of a world that will be alive and therefore messy. Satan's light flares just slightly. He drifts upward through the layers, not returning to heaven, but prowling the borderlands. He moves with the patience of a predator that knows the meal will come. The fallen follow, and their formation looks less like an army and more like a swarm that learned discipline. You pass with them, and the air changes every few moments. Cold snaps to heat, dry to damp, metallic tang to briny salt. You catch a whiff of something so earthy it makes you homesick. Mud. Actual mud. It's ridiculous what your soul will latch onto for comfort. Above, the new world sharpens into detail. You see blue-black space scattered with stars like spilled salt. You see a sphere hung in nothing, wrapped in cloud. You see sunlight strike water and turn it into a sheet of hammered bronze. It's beautiful in a way that makes your chest ache. It's also brand new, which means it's basically a toddler wandering around with scissors. Satan watches. He watches the sea swarm with life, scales flashing, mouths opening and closing in constant wet ambition. He watches birds take their first clumsy flights, feathers still learning how to be aerodynamic. He watches beasts crawl and run and snort and drool. It's all so physical, so loud, so breakable. And you feel his attention sharpen, because now the Creator is doing something that, to Satan, feels like a personal insult. Something lower than angels is being shaped with care. You sense the moment before you see it. The ground is damp. The air is warm. The scent is rich. Wet clay, crushed leaves, sun-baked stone. This place is not polite. It sweats, it grows, it decays, it's honest. The Creator's presence isn't a spectacle like the throne room. It's intimate here, close enough that the soil feels held. And then you see it, a form shaped from dust. Dust of all things. Not gemstones, not fire, not living lightning. Dust you could rub between your fingers and lose in a breeze. It's almost comical, in a horrifying way. Like the universe's highest artisan is making a masterpiece out of the stuff stuck under your sandals. The form lies there still, and then breath enters it. Not metaphorical breath. Breath. A startling simple inhale like a newborn pulling air for the first time. The chest rises. The mouth opens. The eyes blink wetly like they're not sure light is a good idea. The human sits up, and the movement is awkward. Too many joints, too much vulnerability, too much soft tissue that can bruise. And the Creator regards this dust being with a kind of attention that makes the entire place feel safer, like a lamp lit in a dark room. Satan's reaction is immediate, not surprise. Offense. You feel it hit like a cold splash. His light tightens, and his face, still beautiful, still symmetrical, hardens into something that could cut glass. He stares at the human the way someone stares at a promotion announcement they absolutely did not expect. All that care, all that closeness, given to dirt. The human blinks around, and you can practically hear the brain buffering. He touches his own arm, feeling skin, then presses fingers into the ground like he's confirming he isn't dreaming. He looks up, and the world, for a moment, Looks like it might actually be uncomplicated. Satan watches that moment like he wants to spit on it. And again, there's no spit down here, no saliva, no helpful bodily functions, only intention. He circles at a distance, not rushing. He's learned what rushing costs. He watches the Creator place the human in a garden that feels like the earth's first attempt at luxury. Trees heavy with fruit, water running clean, air perfumed with blossoms and sap, everything alive, everything soft, everything designed to be received. It's obscene how gentle it is. You smell it even from here. The sweetness of ripe fruit split open, the green snap of stems crushed underfoot, the damp loam that clings to your skin. There are insects buzzing, birds chattering, and the whole place hums like it's pleased with itself. If heaven was too clean, this is too lush. This is the kind of place where you'd immediately get pollen in your nose and regret your life choices. The kind of place where something is always crawling, always blooming, always dropping something sticky on your shoulder. The human walks through it like a child in a pantry, touching everything, naming everything. You watch him laugh at an animal that does something ridiculous, like trip over its own feet, and the sound is so shockingly small. Not a choir, not thunder, just a human laugh. It does something to you. It does something to Satan too. His attention narrows until it feels like the garden is being stared at through the barrel of a weapon. He sees the human's innocence, the way an experienced liar sees a trusting face. He sees open-handedness and immediately thinks of what can be placed into that hand. And you feel it, the beginning of a plan forming, not as a list, not as a speech, but as a hunger finally finding a shape. He won't attack the throne. He'll attack what the throne loves. Because that's what adversaries do when they can't win the main fight. They ruin what the other side is trying to build. Satan drifts closer to the edges of the garden, and the air changes around him. The lush scents don't disappear, but they sour slightly, like fruit left too long in heat. That first hint of fermentation, that faint tang of rot, it's subtle, it's enough. The fallen ones hang back, restless. Some of them are drawn to the garden's beauty like moths to flame, still remembering what it felt like to belong somewhere bright. Others hate it, immediately, like beauty is a personal accusation. Satan doesn't share the view. He studies entry points. He watches the humans, now there are two, move through the place with the kind of trust that makes you want to shout at them. They touch leaves. They drink water. They eat fruit with sticky fingers. They have no armor. They don't even have clothes. They are, spiritually speaking, walking around with their passwords written on a sticky note. The Creator's presence in the garden is gentle, near, like footsteps you can sense without seeing. There's a rhythm to it, a closeness that isn't forced. Satan watches that closeness and remembers the throne room. He remembers the holy cry. He remembers the sealed boundary. And he decides, with a calm that feels worse than rage, that if he can't climb back up, he will drag something down. He drifts toward a creature in the garden that moves differently than the rest. A serpent, sleek, smooth, alert. It slides through leaves without the clumsy honesty of paws and hooves. It doesn't stomp. It doesn't crash through branches. It glides like a secret. Satan's light dims not from weakness, but from strategy. He compresses himself into something smaller, subtler, a presence that can fit inside a whisper. It's like watching a wildfire choose to become a cigarette ember. The serpent lifts its head. Its tongue tastes the air, and you catch that faint, wet hiss. It's such a normal sound, so animal, so ordinary. And yet, with Satan near it, the sound becomes suggestive, like a question mark. Up in heaven, the throne room remains steady. Holy, holy, holy. Down here, the garden still smells like ripe fruit and running water. But between those two places, in the middle layers where rebellion now crawls instead of sings, a voice prepares itself, not to shout, to insinuate, to take that awful, glittering promise you could be like God and slide it into a human heart the way a splinter slides under skin, quietly, painfully, with consequences that will last longer than anyone in this garden can imagine. And the universe, still reeling from that lightning fall, holds its breath as the serpent disappears into leaves and the first temptation draws near. So after all of that, after the throne room and the rebellion and the fall, what were the storytellers trying to tell us? Because you don't get dragged through wheels covered in eyes and a sea like glass just for the vibes. You don't watch perfection turn into spite, then watch heaven keep singing like nothing happened, unless there's something you're meant to carry back down to your own very unglassy life. First, that throne room. That place wasn't cozy. It wasn't a cloud and harp waiting room. It was beautiful in the same way a lightning storm over the ocean is beautiful. You can't look away, and you also feel like you're about to get obliterated for blinking wrong. That's on purpose. Holiness in this story world isn't soft. It's clean in a way that makes you suddenly aware of every sticky, petty, selfish smear on your insides, like your soul just walked under fluorescent bathroom lighting. And that matters because it resets your scale. You remember, you're not the center. You're not even a decent substitute. The throne is not a chair you audition for. Then you meet the morning star, and it's honestly unfair. Gemstones for skin, music built into his body, beauty so intense you'd need to squint spiritually just to be in the same room. The storytellers linger there for a reason too. Evil in this telling doesn't start as a cartoon villain twirling a mustache. It starts as splendor. It starts as giftedness so loud everyone assumes it must be safe. You can almost feel the warning baked into it. Don't confuse shine with goodness. Don't confuse charisma with character. Some things sparkle because they're holy. Some things sparkle because they're polished. That's why the pride moment hits like a punch. Perfection doesn't break because it wasn't enough. It breaks because it decided it deserved more than it was given. You watched a masterpiece set itself on fire, not because someone pushed it, but because it started believing the frame mattered more than the artist. Pride is weird like that. It takes a real gift and turns it into a little private throne you drag around, demanding everyone admire it, and it's never satisfied. It doesn't stroll in and say, "Nice job, you're confident now." It moves in like a terrible roommate, eats your food, and starts making rules about how you breathe. Then the war. War in heaven is already a sentence that makes your brain itch. A place with no decay, no hunger, no panic, and suddenly there's conflict anyway. That part lands like this. Choice is real. Loyalty isn't a feature that comes pre-installed. Even in a world blazing with light, we'll still choose. That's sobering, but it's also strangely dignifying. Love that can't be refused isn't love, it's programming. So the story lets refusal exist, even up there, because the yes is meant to be actual yes. Then comes the fall, and it's not just dramatic, it's permanent. One moment, music and gemstones and access. Next moment, grit, sulfur, and that burned metal taste like you licked a lightning bolt. The storytellers want you to feel the cost of rebellion, not as a slapstick oops, but as a door that shuts. Not because God misplaced the key, but because some choices aren't experiments. They're exits, And right after that, the aftermath. Heaven doesn't collapse. The throne doesn't wobble. Nobody runs around trying to patch reality with duct tape and a clipboard. That steadiness isn't cold. It's mercy. If heaven fell apart every time someone sinned, everything would be rubble forever. Instead, holiness stays holy. Worship stays true. Even grief stands up straight. There's comfort in that, even for you down here. Your worst days don't get to vote on whether God remains God. The gaps in the choir matter, but they don't topple the throne. Then we drift downward, toward that garden smell, wet soil, crushed leaves, fruit that's one warm hour away from fermentation. The story pivots from cosmic brightness to muddy, breathing vulnerability. That's another point they're pressing into your hands. God doesn't only love the dazzling, God loves the dust. You watch the Creator lean close to the ground, like it was worth touching. Breath in a clay body, a human laugh, small and unarmed. It's almost offensive how much attention gets given to something that can stub a toe and die. But that's the heartbeat of it. The enemy doesn't go after humans because humans are powerful. He goes after them because they're loved. So what does all of this mean for someone lying in bed centuries later with a mind that won't stop spinning through regrets and to-do lists? It means you don't have to be a cosmic rebel to recognize the seed. Pride isn't always a speech on a mountain. Sometimes it's a quiet little inner hiss that says, I deserve more. I know better. I should be the exception. It means giftedness is not armor. Beauty is not immunity. Influence is not holiness. Even worship, music, service, leadership, being the talented one everybody notices, can become a mirror you never stop staring into. And it means evil often doesn't show up with a battering ram. It shows up like that serpent energy you felt forming. Insinuation, a suggestion that makes you feel clever, a half question that makes obedience feel childish, a shiny idea that turns trust into suspicion. You've seen where that road goes in this story. Not to freedom, to exile, not to being like God, to being away from God, which is a colder place than people realize. But the reflection doesn't end in dread. It ends in steadiness. Because over and over, through the weirdness and terror and loss, one thing never moved. The throne stayed the throne. Holiness stayed holy. The light didn't get voted out by a third of the room. That's the rest at the center of all this cosmic noise. Betrayal can happen, but it doesn't get to be ultimate. Pride can rise, but it doesn't get to be permanent ruler. The adversary can plan, but he's still planning under a ceiling he cannot break. So you come away with a clean kind of clarity, not a paranoid, jumpy clarity, a grounded one. You can be small and still be treasured. You can be gifted and still need humility like you need water. You can grieve real losses and still keep your footing. And you can live in a world where whispers exist without letting the whisper become your truth. The story doesn't leave you dangling in the dark with no handhold. It leaves you with one solid fact. The throne is steady, even when the universe gets weird. And with that steadiness hanging in the background like a constant living light, the war doesn't feel like chaos anymore. It feels like a conflict with boundaries, with limits, with an ending already held in place. Even while the serpent slides through leaves and the night air waits for what comes next. The air under the trees is cooler than it should be. You feel it on your forearms first, like the garden is holding its breath. Leaves shift overhead with that soft, polite rustle that makes you want to trust them. The ground is damp in patches, and the soil has that rich smell, dark, alive, almost sweet. But there's something else riding under it, a faint tang like crushed stems, a sharp green bite. the kind of smell that shows up when something has been handled, when something has been disturbed. Your bare feet press into the dirt, and it clings to your skin in a thin film. Everything here wants to touch you. The air, the vines, the grass, even the insects doing their small, rude business around your ankles like you're just another warm rock. And somewhere close, too close, there's movement that doesn't match the wind. Not loud, not dramatic, just intentional. A shift through low leaves, careful enough to avoid the dry ones. A slick sound against bark, like a rope dragged slowly over wood. You don't see it at first. You feel it, the way you feel eyes on you in a crowded street. The whisper doesn't come as a roar. It never does. It's the softest voice in the garden, so you lean in without meaning to. It's a question shaped like a compliment, a suggestion dressed up as concern. It feels like someone handing you a shiny little thought and saying, "This is yours. You deserve this." You can almost hear the old pride behind it, still wearing perfume, still trying to look harmless. You could be like God. And so the story doesn't end. It never really ended. It's still being told, not with flaming swords in your face every morning, not with a dragon landing on your roof. It's subtler than that, because it has to be. You don't need a spectacle to ruin a life. You need a small crack and a steady drip. You take a step, and the garden makes room for you like it always has. Fruit hangs heavy in the branches, warm from the day. The skins are smooth, almost glossy, and you can smell sugar where something has split on the ground. Ants are already at it, throwing themselves a sticky little feast, committed and unashamed. You watch them work. No debate, no doubt, just instinct and appetite. Humans aren't like that, and you know it in your bones. Humans pause. Humans imagine. Humans hold a thing in their hands and decide what it means. You can feel that choice hovering in the air, weightless and heavy at the same time. The war is not always swords. Sometimes it's a quiet moment in a place that smells like figs, where you get to decide whether trust is childish or wise. Some days, the battlefield looks like this. Soft ground, clean air, beauty so calm it feels like it can't possibly be dangerous. Other days, it looks like a kitchen table with yesterday's crumbs still stuck to it. A job you don't love. A conversation you keep replaying because you said the wrong thing or didn't say anything at all. The whisper finds you there too. It slides into the smallest places, into the gaps between what you are and what you wish you were. It doesn't always say, rebel. Sometimes it says, protect yourself. Sometimes it says, you're the only one who cares. Sometimes it says, they don't see you, so take what you can. It can even dress itself up in the holy language. It can sound like devotion when it's really control. It can sound like confidence when it's really hunger. It can sound like wisdom when it's really the old ache of wanting the throne. You remember that throne, steady, blinding, not impressed. That memory sits in you like a stone that doesn't move. You can build around it. You can rest your weight on it. You can hit it with all your fear and it doesn't crack. And because it doesn't move, the whisper has to work harder. So it gets creative. It tries flattery. It tries urgency. It tries the tired, wheezing little lie that you are alone, that nobody sees, that nobody cares, that you have to become your own God because no one else will take care of you. The whisper always wants the same thing. Not your bad habits, not your mistakes, not your embarrassing little failures, your trust. That's what it's after. That simple, stubborn, ordinary thing. The kind that doesn't sparkle, the kind that doesn't get applause, the kind that is, frankly, boring to anyone who wants to be admired. Trust is not flashy. Trust doesn't get encrusted with gemstones. It doesn't get pipes and tabrets built into its ribs. Trust is quiet. Trust is daily. Trust is you choosing, again, to live like the throne is real and you are not it. The war keeps moving forward, inch by inch, through time that tastes like dust. You watch the world widen out from the garden. The air changes as you step beyond the thick green, becoming rougher, drier, full of grit. The soil gets stubborn. The sun feels less like a blessing and more like a taskmaster. Work starts immediately. Thorns don't ask permission. Stones don't care about your plans. Sweat shows up on your skin and dries into salt, and your mouth tastes like you've been chewing on a clay pot. You learn fast that bodies are needy, and days are long, and bread is never as easy as you thought it would be. And that's where the whisper loves to visit too. When you're tired, when you're hungry, when your hands are cracked and your patience is down to a nub. It waits for that moment when your spirit is threadbare and everything in you wants a shortcut. Just take, just grasp, just make yourself the exception. Out in the open world, pride doesn't always feel like arrogance. Sometimes it feels like survival. You see people stacking stones into walls, trying to keep something safe. You see families huddled around small fires at night, the smoke stinging your eyes, the smell of singed fat and damp wool clinging to your hair. You hear arguments that start over a goat and end with someone crying into their sleeves. And the whisper takes notes. It learns your favorite fears. It learns where you're tender. It learns what you hate about yourself, and it uses that like a handle. It doesn't need to invent a new war. It just keeps reusing the old one, the same way people keep reusing the same cooking pot until it's blackened and dented, and still somehow functional. Time keeps moving. You blink, and there are cities now, crowded, loud, full of smoke and voices. The streets are narrow, and everything smells like pressed olives, old fish, sweat, and the questionable optimism of humans trying to live on top of each other. Animals push through the crowd like they own the place, because they do. Someone bumps your shoulder and doesn't apologize. A merchant yells a price that feels like a personal insult. Somewhere nearby, something is being cooked that would absolutely violate modern health codes. Privacy is still a myth. And in that noise, the whisper doesn't have to whisper. It can practically speak at conversational volume. It sounds like ambition. It sounds like reputation. It sounds like, if you don't climb, you'll be stepped on. It sounds like, if you don't win, you'll disappear. Pride thrives in crowds. It loves the way people look at each other and measure. It loves the way envy can rise in a chest like sour milk warming in the sun. It loves the way you can start comparing without even noticing you're doing it, like breathing. You see it happen in 1,000 small ways. Someone gets praised, and another person's face goes tight for half a second. Someone gets ignored, and they start building a little private courtroom in their mind. Someone gets power, and they start talking like their voice is the only one that matters. The war keeps happening in expressions and choices, in tones of voice, in the way a hand either opens or closes. And somehow, through all of it, the throne stays the throne. That steadiness doesn't erase the mess. It doesn't pretend the hurt isn't real. It just refuses to be moved by it. You feel that refusal in the background of the world, like the horizon. People build, people break, people betray, people repent. People sing with cracked voices and dirty hands. People whisper prayers into their sleeves because they're embarrassed to be seen needing anything. The war keeps going, but it isn't wild. It has limits. Even the adversary, for all his hunger, moves like a creature under a ceiling. He can hiss, he can lure, he can accuse until your ears ring with it. but he cannot unmake what was made. He cannot dethrone the throne. Sometimes you catch glimpses of the ending, the way you catch lightning far off over hills, not enough to keep you awake with details, just enough to steady you. You see fire that isn't chaotic, fire that does not need fuel. You see justice that doesn't flinch. You see a day when the shouting stops, because there's nothing left to argue about. The old rebel's story does not end with him winning. He doesn't get to drag heaven down into his bitterness. He doesn't get to turn the universe into his private tantrum. All his pride, all his refusal, all his glittering hunger. It ends like a lamp going out when the oil is gone. Not because someone forgot to refill it, but because emptiness can only burn for so long before it's just empty. And that's a strange comfort. Not the comfort of ignoring pain. The comfort of knowing pain is not permanent ruler. The comfort of knowing the loudest voice is not the highest authority. The war continues, but it continues toward an ending that is already held. Back in the world of days and bread and sweat, the battle keeps finding you in ordinary places. You wake up and you have to decide what kind of person you're going to be. Not in an epic way, in a way that would look unimpressive on a mural. You get a chance to be right. And you also get a chance to be kind. You get a chance to be seen. And you also get a chance to be faithful when nobody claps. You get a chance to turn everything into a performance. Or you get a chance to live like you're already loved. That second option is quieter. It doesn't feed pride. It doesn't give the whisper much to grab onto. And it feels, in the moment, like losing. That's one of the oldest tricks in the war. Making humility look like defeat. Making trust look like weakness. Making obedience look like you're being denied something delicious. But you've seen where the delicious lie goes. It goes to exile. It goes to that burned metal taste. It goes to a door that shuts and doesn't reopen because the choice was real. So the war becomes, for you, less about fear and more about clarity. You recognize the whisper faster now. You don't have to have a full debate with it. You know its cologne. You know its habits. You know that it always circles back to the same sales pitch. Take the throne. Make it about you. You also know what the throne feels like. Holy, unmovable, not hungry for your praise, the way pride is hungry for attention. That kind of steadiness makes the whisper sound tired. It still talks. It just doesn't sound impressive anymore. The night deepens over the garden, and the air cools further. You can smell earth settling. You can smell leaf mold and sap, and somewhere nearby a blossom that opened too late, wasting its sweetness on the dark. Crickets start up like a hesitant choir, each one testing its voice, and the sound spreads until it becomes a thin blanket over everything. The leaves move again. For a moment, your muscles tighten, expecting that slick shape, that careful intention, that presence that wants to be your friend while it rearranges your soul. But it's only a small animal this time, something quick and fragile, skittering through the undergrowth in a hurry to stay alive. So much of life is like that. So many sudden movements that aren't the enemy at all. Just the world being the world. Just creatures moving through darkness, trying to make it to morning. You stand there with the memory of heaven still somewhere behind your eyes, bright enough to be painful if you stare at it directly. You don't belong in that throne room. Not by power, not by merit, not by beauty. And still, you were allowed to see it. You were allowed to know the throne does not wobble. You were allowed to watch pride fall and learn what it costs. You were allowed to watch loyalty stand and learn what it looks like. You were allowed to feel that holy steadiness and carry it back down into a world that leaks and rots and breaks. The war that began before time keeps brushing against your days. It shows up when you want credit, when you want revenge, when you want to be the exception, when you want to hold a grudge like it's a warm stone in your pocket. It shows up when you're ashamed and the whisper says, hide, and then says, now you're alone, and then says, since you're alone, do whatever you want. It shows up when you're praised and your heart lifts a little too high, floating toward that old cliff edge where the morning star once stood and decided he deserved the center. But it also shows up in the opposite direction, in the moment you stop performing, in the moment you admit you need help, in the moment you choose truth over image, in the moment you let go of a crown you never should have tried to wear. That's part of the war too, and it doesn't get enough attention because it's not flashy. It's quiet strength. It's the kind of strength that doesn't need to win an argument to be real, the kind that can kneel without collapsing, the kind that can serve without secretly keeping score. Above you, through a gap in the leaves, the night sky shows itself. One star catches your eye, steady and sharp. It doesn't look like a gemstone set in a crown. It looks like a simple point of light doing its job. No drama, no speeches. It rises, it holds, it moves on. Morning will come again, whether the whisper likes it or not. The story will keep echoing, whether anyone applauds it or not. The throne will remain, whether the world feels stable or not. And the war, strange, ancient, mostly unseen, will keep pressing itself into the smallest corners of choice, where pride wants a seat and humility offers it back. The garden is darker now, the sounds are softer, the air is cooler. Somewhere out there, beyond the trees and beyond the years, the ending waits like a closed door with light leaking around its edges, not rushed, not anxious, just certain. And beneath all the noise of breathing creatures and restless hearts, that steady holiness remains, unchanged, unbothered, enduring, while the stars keep their slow watch overhead, and somewhere the story continues.